Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Royal Beast. Little Fox Evolves Nine-Tailed Sky Fox. Chapter 61. Above the arena, the battle between the Vajra Ape King and the giant steel beast has become more and more fierce. Su Yun and Chu Tianyan continued to issue orders through sound transmission. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying roar echoed continuously in the field. The fists of the Vajra Ape King and the giant steel beast continued to clash with each other, and the surrounding ground began to crack, and strong winds spread continuously. Over time, the steel behemoth began to gain the upper hand gradually, and began to gain the initiative to attack. Unfortunately, the level of the Beast Master is too low after all. Looking at the battle in the field, Chu Tianyan shook his head slightly. The Vajra Ape King is indeed very strong. If it is the same level, it is very likely that his steel giant will not last long in the opponent's hands. But there are no ifs in the world. The current level of his steel behemoth is far higher than that of the opponent. This is an insurmountable gap. It is also the main reason for the opponent's defeat. It seems that the victory and defeat have been decided. Yeah, Su Yun is destined to stop here. It's really a pity. Su Yun's luck is really bad. He met Chu Tianyan in the 9th game, otherwise maybe he might go further. A group of examiners from Fengsing University were also whispering there. Almost no one thinks Su Yun still has any chance of turning the tables. But at this moment, Su Yun's words have already sounded. King Vajra Ape, use your full strength and use the shattering fist. Roar. The Vajra Ape King, who had been a little upset for a long time, let out a roar of excitement and had already waved his fist again. Click. The power to shatter everything erupted from the fist of the Vajra Ape King, and the air appeared to be shattered, visible to the naked eye, like a river, shrouding the giant steel beast. What? There was a hint of shock on Chu Tianyan's face. He never thought that the Vajra Ape King had such a terrifying whole card. Spirituality, hardness. Seeing that the giant steel beast couldn't dodge at all, a spirit technique surged out from Chu Tianyan's hands. Boom. The entire arena erupted. Under this punch, the surrounding earth was all shattered. The steel behemoth was also completely enveloped by that terrifying shattering force. This punch. I don't know how many people in the field saw King Kong's shattering punch for the first time, and they were all shocked by this terrifying power. This is Smash Punch, what joke? An examiner stood up excitedly. His Beast Master also has this skill. But don't say that the power is less than 1% of this punch. It is even impossible for the shattering force to leave the fist an inch away. This kid, to what extent has the skill level of this move been raised? Xiao Feiyu twitched the corner of his mouth slightly. Even him. You are seeing it for the first time. Someone can use the power of Smash Punch to such an exaggerated level. Roar. The giant steel beast let out a miserable roar, and received a punch from the Vajra Ape King head-on. Although it was not killed by a single blow due to the double protection of spiritual arts and skills, its whole body was already dripping with blood. Phew. The Vajra Ape King was a little surprised when he saw that there was no one-hit victory, and threw another punch without hesitation. Boom. The power pervades all directions, as if it wants to destroy everything in the world. Get out of the way, giant steel beast. Chu Tianyan said hastily. The iron behemoth showed fear in its eyes, barely dodged this punch, but another punch came one after another. Boom, boom, boom. The Vajra Ape King kept sweeping out one punch after another, and the power to smash everything continued to wreak havoc in the field, directly destroying everything around him completely. The steel behemoth could only escape in embarrassment, relying on its own defensive power to punch hard from time to time. A large amount of blood continuously flowed down from his body and mouth. Chu Tianyan, unexpectedly, has no power to fight back. Seeing the astonishing battle in the field, everyone was dumbfounded. Such a scene. They could not have imagined it anyway. Stop, stop. Seeing the increasingly miserable giant steel beast, Chu Tianyan immediately shouted. Stop it, Vajra Ape King. Su Yun said flatly. Whoops. After King Kong Ape King knocked the giant steel beast into the air with his last punch, he withdrew his fist reluctantly. Such a punching sandbag. It is also the first encounter. Chu Tianyan looked at the somewhat unsatisfactory eyes of the Vajra Ape King, twitched the corner of his mouth slightly, and said helplessly. I lost. You passed the 9th test. He has seen it. The power of King Kong Ape King's Shatter Fist is too terrifying. The iron behemoth is no match at all. There is no point in continuing to fight other than wasting time and letting the steel giant bear more pain. Hearing Chu Tianyan admit defeat, everyone was shocked. Because they are all very clear. What exactly does this represent? All of a sudden, there was an uproar in the field. Everyone started whispering, "This is the 9th exam. You can say it without hesitation. If nothing unexpected happens. Candidates who pass the 9 rounds are definitely well-deserved champions in 100 cities. In the entire history of Jinfeng City, there are absolutely no more than one person who has achieved such an honor. It has really reached such a point. Su Yun. The future achievements of this young man are limitless." The eyes of the countless strong men in the field looking at Su Yun have completely changed. Among them, there are many beast masters of the 4th or even 5th rank, and their cultivation level may far surpass Su Yun, who is currently. But this world is truly the strongest. The strength and talent that Su Yun displayed. It's enough for them to take it seriously. They all looked at Su Yun expectantly. They want to take a look. Whether Su Yun can pass the 10th test will truly make history. Become the first student in the history of Jinfeng City to obtain perfect results in the college entrance examination of Fengsing University. Under everyone's gaze, Su Yun started the 10th exam. How strong will Su Yun's opponent be? Almost everyone. I have such a thought in my heart. Chu Tianyan in the 9th round was already a rare master among the 4th-tier beast masters. And the 10th game, undoubtedly stronger. Next moment. The arena is restored to its original state by the power of the virtual world. A figure also emerged. This is a middle-aged man. It looks ordinary. It seems that even if it falls among the crowd, it is inconspicuous. But look at this man. Su Yun's expression was incomparably dignified. Even in the virtual world. He also smelled the bloody breath coming from the opponent's body. Strong enemy. An unprecedented enemy. The strength of this person in front of him. Far stronger than all the enemies I have encountered before. Not even the same. It turned out to be a lunatic who is blood mad. Is he also one of the teachers for these exams? Seeing the appearance of the middle-aged man, all the teachers of Fengsing University were in an uproar. Blood madness. Even among all the teachers in Fengsing Academy, they are genuine fighting madmen. Once a fight occurs, I don't even know what holding back is. I don't know how many students were seriously injured in the duel with him. An examiner said in a low voice, "Blood maniac is extremely serious about fighting. I'm afraid it will not be regarded as an exam at all, but a battle of life and death." Xiao Feiyu also whispered to himself, "The strength of the blood madman is very strong. I am afraid that he is the strongest among all the opponents of the candidates this time. Su Yun's giant ape is very strong, but it is absolutely impossible to be the blood madman's beastmaster opponent. It looks like that's the end of it." All the examiners shook their heads, with regretful expressions on their faces. A genius who clearly has the potential to pass 10 exams. The luck is really not very good. At this time, in the arena, Shui Kuang glanced at Su Yun silently, and said, "I will use all my strength. If you don't want to hurt the confidence of the Beast Master, it's better to admit defeat now before it's too late." Su Yun said, "I don't have the habit of admitting defeat, and the opponent in the 10th game is you. It is really good." There was also a flash of fighting intent in Su Yun's eyes. Although the previous battles had some ups and downs, but everything was within his expectations. He also longed for a close fight. "Really, do you suit my taste, kid?" Sensing Su Yun's fighting spirit, a smile appeared on Shui Kuang's indifferent face, and he summoned his imperial beast. It was a wolf, a silver-white wolf. It stands above the ground. It seems to be a king looking down on all living beings, full of arrogance. Name: Moonlight Wolf King. Level: Lord 6th Layer. Talent: Advanced Recovery Talent, Advanced Speed Talent, Low-Level Defense Talent. Attribute: Phantom. Bloodline: High Lord. Skills: Moonlight Blade, Phantom Roar, Moonlight Claw, Moonlight Fang. Su Yun looked at the Moonlight Wolf King with a look of shock on his face. Because the Moonlight Wolf King has a different mighty aura, his appearance is indeed very high. And most importantly, the opponent turned out to be a rare magic attribute. This is a rare beast that is as famous as Dragon, Element, and 2 attributes. In that case, Vajra Ape King, take a break. Su Yun made a move, and had brought the Vajra Ape King back into the beast-familiar space. What is Su Yun going to do? He doesn't want to change the beast. Except for a few people who knew Xiao Bai, everyone's faces showed surprise. Although the replacement of the beast is allowed by the rules. But they are unimaginable, Su Yun's intention of doing this. After all, in their opinion, cultivating such a good Vajra Ape King should be Su Yun's strongest combat power. Next moment, the light of the summoning circle emerged. A petite three-tailed white fox appeared on the battlefield with a clear low cry. The why, some people looked at the cute and elegant Xiao Bai, and all of them were dumbfounded. Because from the looks of it, Xiao Bai fights, adding a pet suitable for viewing. But the Moonlight Wolf King on the opposite side seemed to feel the threat, let out a long howl, the muscles all over his body tensed, and he already showed a fighting posture. This moment, an indescribable ominous aura, it has already emanated from the body of the Moonlight Wolf King. Oh, did the Moonlight Wolf King pay so much attention to it? The eyes of the blood madman flickered slightly, and he immediately gave an order. Do it, Moonlight Wolf King. Swish, the Moonlight Wolf King's figure flickered, and he had already rushed towards Xiao Bai, his paws glowed coldly, and they swung down directly. Xiao Bai, get out of the way, Su Yun said via voice transmission. Although the Moonlight Wolf King displayed extremely fast speed, Xiao Bai had never lost to any opponent in terms of speed. Woo! Xiao Bai let out a low cry, a sharp look flashed in his eyes, his figure turned into a white light, and he had already appeared in another place, easily dodging the attack of the used-up Wolf King. Escaped. Blood Quang's complexion changed, his expression became a little excited, and he said, continue to pursue. The Moonlight Wolf King let out a long roar, and his speed was 3 points faster than before, chasing towards Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai, ice armor, Su Yun said. Xiao Bai's whole body was filled with cold air, which directly turned into an indestructible ice armor, completely covering his whole body. Ding! With a crisp sound, the Moonlight Wolf King's claws had already landed on the ice armor, but it only left a deep ice mark, which didn't have the defense to pierce the armor at all. Xiao Bai, artisan. Xiao Bai opened his mouth wide, an endless chill erupted from his sharp teeth, and instantly bit the Moonlight Wolf King's neck. Faced with all this, when the Moonlight Wolf King was in the nick of time, he dodged narrowly while moving. Swish! The figure of the Moonlight Wolf King backed away quickly, distanced himself from Xiao Bai, with a look of vigilance on his face. Well, no wonder you've gotten to this point, things are getting more and more interesting. Blood Quang's expression became more and more excited. Nuo Hao Jiao, as if he finally saw a prey worth fighting, he directly ordered. Moonlight Wolf King, attack with all your might. Obtaining the master's order, the Moonlight Wolf King raised his head to the sky and let out a long howl. His aura was rising steadily, and the silvery white hair all over his body seemed to be covered by the moonlight. Boom! A terrifying momentum erupted, directly centered on the Moonlight Wolf King. It swept away in all directions. The envoy of the Moonlight Wolf King at this moment. The coercion is definitely several times stronger than before. It seems to be a phantom beast walking out of the moonlight, which is daunting. Sure enough, this is your true strength. A look of seriousness flashed across Su Yun's eyes, but there was no trace of fear in them. Xiao Bai also let out a long roar, his body tensed slightly, and the fighting spirit in his whole body also shot straight into the sky. In the arena, the sound of wolf chant resounded continuously, and the Moonlight Wolf King seemed to be transformed into a bright moon, exuding an incomparably bright brilliance. The Moonlight Wolf King at this time was undoubtedly beautiful. But the breath that emanates. But it has nothing to do with beautiful characters. As if as long as it moves. It was a brutal killing. Moonlight Wolf King, use the Moonlight Blade. Shui Kuang opened his mouth lightly, and the Moonlight Wolf King had already moved, and the claws in his hand suddenly swung down. This time the attack was no different from the previous ones. But everyone only felt a blur in front of them. Laugh! A crescent-shaped blade of light pierced the sky in an instant, sweeping across the audience in an instant, as if it wanted to completely crush everything in front of it. A look of contempt flashed in Moonlight Wolf King's eyes, as if he had seen the scene where Xiao Bai was split into two under its blow. Xiao Bai, release the source, and then breathe out the fire. Su Yun said directly via voice transmission. Woo! Xiao Bai roared to the sky. Two completely different auras of ice and fire have erupted from its body. All of a sudden, the entire arena seems to have turned into a world of ice and fire. One cold and one hot, two temperatures. Constantly alternation. Xiaobai opened his mouth, an incomparably scorching breath surged, and the air around him was distorted, visible to the naked eye, as if being scorched. Next moment, the crimson flame has already bloomed. The shocking pillar of fire has already moved towards the direction of the moonlight blade. Boom! The flame and the moonlight blade collided together. A shocking roar erupted directly. This moment, the whole world seemed to be overshadowed. Two completely different, but equally violent forces collided and confronted each other. It was as if the entire arena was divided into two. Everyone watched this scene. A look of horror flashed in their eyes. Although across the big screen, then I instinctively felt the horror of these two forces. Bang! The flame and the moonlight blade collided with each other. The two forces exploded at the same time. An earth-shattering explosion was set off directly. The entire arena has also become a mess, showing a broken scene. I can't stop it. An unconcealable shock flashed in Shuikuang's eyes. He is very clear. The Moonlight Wolf King has already made a move with all his strength. However, the strength of the beast that is facing him can actually compete with it. Such a powerful, it's just too incredible. But that's what's interesting, isn't it? A look of madness flashed in Shuikuang's eyes, and he said, Moonlight Wolf King, rush over and use Moonlight Claws. Swish! The figure of the Moonlight Wolf King flickered and rushed towards Xiaobai. Xiaobai, ice armor, ice crack claw. Xiaobai started to run fast. His whole body was covered by ice, and the paws that were surging with coldness were also swung by wolves. Boom! Accompanied by a muffled sound. The moonlight and cold air kept surging. The two paws have collided together. Air ripples visible to the naked eye spread in all directions. Ah! Woo! Xiaobai and the Moonlight Wolf King stared at each other, bowing their heads as if it was a signal, and the two had already directly fought together. Bang! 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 A huge muffled sound resounded continuously throughout the audience. There seemed to be two streamers of light, one white and one silver, flickering continuously in the entire battlefield. Every time Xiaobai and the Moonlight Wolf King appeared, the surrounding ground would completely explode. Spiritual art, iron armor art, spiritual art, moonlight swagger. Spiritual art, light wind. A gleam flashed in Shuikuang's eyes, and one after another spiritual spells had mercilessly descended on Moonlight Wolf King. All of a sudden, the Moonlight Dragon King's strength continued to rise, and he had completely suppressed Xiaobai. It's not going to work like this. The spiritual skills mastered by the Blood Madness are endless, far beyond what Su Yun can match. Yes, it's a pity, this white fox is indeed very strong, but in the battle, the strength of the Beast Master is also very important. All the people looked at the battle in the field with regret in their eyes. However, the outcome of the battle was not too surprising. The gap between the two. It is no longer cultivation. It lies in the precipitation of the years. After all, Blood Crazy is a veteran world powerhouse, and the spirit technique that he supports Moonlight Wolf King can make the Moonlight Wolf King's strength reach a peak. But they also believed, with the power that Su Yun displayed now, I am afraid that in a few years, Blood Madness will be far from being Su Yun's opponent. But today, doomed to lose, it seems that this time the exam. After all, no one will achieve perfect results. But just when everyone thought that winning or losing was certain, in the field, there are sudden changes. Xiaobai, use the ice and fire vortex. Su Yun shouted. The vortex of ice and fire, which Su Yun regarded as his trump card, finally could not hide anything from the tricky opponent of Blood Madness. Boom! The huge vortex formed by ice and fire has spewed out from Xiaobai's mouth. The terrifying aura changed Bloody's face, and he quickly said, Moonlight Wolf King, the hard-working Gaze Blade. Although frightened by the power of the vortex of ice and fire. But the Moonlight Wolf King is in an awkward position at this time, there is no room for dodge at all, so he can only attack with all his strength. Rumble! The vortex of ice and fire formed a huge spiral, swept down like a tornado, and landed on the crescent-like light blade. Click! A trace of cracks emerged on the light blade. In the end, the entire light blade has completely exploded. How is this possible? A look of horror flashed in Shuikuang's eyes. Xiaobai's attack power now is completely different from before. Spiritual art, light shield. Spirituality, turn back. Under Shuiguang's anxiety, a series of defensive spirit spells flew out of Shuiguang's hands, completely covering the Moonlight Wolf King like an iron wall. But the next moment, all the defenses had been completely defeated, and the Moonlight Wolf King also instinctively launched a counterattack. The light of the moonlight radiated from his claws, but he couldn't resist all of this at all. The whole body was directly bombarded and flew away. Rumble. The earth was torn apart in an instant. Between the vortex of ice and fire, a spiral gully has appeared on the entire land and spread to the end of the arena. The Moonlight Wolf King landed with difficulty in the distance, with burns and frostbite all over his body, making him look extremely miserable. Under one blow, the situation has been completely reversed. Watching the sudden change in the situation in the field, everyone's eyes widened suddenly. All go. How many cards does this kid have? This definitely belongs to the category of self-created moves. The two forces that restrain each other use each other, and they don't interact with each other. Instead, they burst out with such terrifying power. How inconceivable it is. The sound of exclamation continued to resound. It wasn't just the students who were stunned. Even those teachers and a group of strong men were shocked. The Moonlight Wolf King shook off the frost on his body, let out a painful growl, and stared at Xiaobai very vigilantly. Hey, is this kind of move really what a student should have? Blood Madness also had an incredible expression on his face. Su Yun didn't give him more time to think at all, and had already given the order to attack again. Boom! Xiaobai took a step forward, and the vortex of ice and fire erupted from his mouth again, sweeping the audience like a tornado. The cold and scorching breath are intertwined. The entire arena seemed to have turned into a world of ice and fire. Moonlight Wolf King, get out of the way. The Blood Madman spoke hastily. With the lessons learned just now, how dare he let the Moonlight Wolf King fight this terrifying move? But at the moment when the Moonlight Wolf King dodged, a white on flashed and passed directly across his body. Pooh! Between blood spatters, a deep frozen claw mark had already been left on Moonlight Wolf King's body. The Moonlight Wolf King angrily wanted to launch a counterattack, but encountered a vortex of ice and fire that had already enveloped him. Fear flashed in Moonlight Wolf King's eyes, and he could only dodge reluctantly. Boom! The two forces of ice and fire erupted on the ground, completely destroying the place where the Moonlight Wolf King was standing, and attacking a huge pit of ice and fire. Xiaobai, with a flame body. Boom! Xiaobai turned into a raging fire, took advantage of the gap between the Moonlight Wolf King's dodge, and slammed into his body fiercely. The terrifying flames instantly scorched its hair, causing Moonlight to howl. Boom! 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 The sound of terrifying roar resounded continuously. Cold and flames are constantly raging in the arena. The whole battle has entered a one-sided situation, facing the astonishingly powerful vortex of ice and fire. Blood Madness let the Moonlight Wolf King attack. He didn't even dare to defend passively, so he could only dodge. But just dodge. It is bound to reveal flaws. Then Xiaobai seized the opportunity and left a series of hideous wounds on the Moonlight Wolf King. Over time, the situation of the Moonlight Wolf King is also getting more and more difficult, with blood dripping from top to bottom, frostbite and burns all over his body. On the other hand, Xiaobai, under Su Yun's order, he continued to launch offensives crazily, exerting all his power to the fullest, and the aura of his whole body swelled to the extreme. This momentum is indomitable, as if no matter who the enemy was, Xiaobai also has no fear. Eventually, the enemy will be completely shredded. Boom! 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 A series of terrifying vortexes of ice and fire continued to erupt in the field. The entire arena has completely changed its appearance, and the melted earth and frozen gullies can be seen everywhere. Some candidates and even the teachers were all terrified. Look at the extremely terrifying destructive power. They are very sure, facing this kind of beast that attack them, I am afraid that as long as they touch a little bit, they will be buried 4 or 5 times in an instant. All of a sudden, everyone looked a little dazed. Some can't believe it. Xiaobai is just a royal beast with a 7th level of leadership. I don't know how long it has been. The Moonlight Wolf King was once again knocked into the air by Xiaobai from the biochemical flames, and one leg was even completely broken. Even standing on the ground, he was already a little unstable. Xiaobai, make the last blow. Su Yun glanced at the Moonlight Wolf King, and the spiritual power in his body was constantly surging, and one after another spiritual spells had been rippling out. Spiritual art. Amplification of fire. Spiritual art. Ice amplification. Xiaobai's expression was indifferent, and an unprecedented vortex of ice and fire had already bloomed from his mouth. It can be even stronger. How is it possible? A look of astonishment flashed in Shui Kuang's eyes. He could see that the power of this blow was definitely several times stronger than before. But at this moment, it was too late for him to think too much. The Moonlight Wolf King, whose leg was injured, had no room left and could only fight head-on. A silver light flickered. A crescent moon stretches between the sky and the earth. Buzz. But the moment the crescent light blade collided with the flames, it disappeared without a trace in an instant. Boom. The flame vortex fell completely, directly devouring the Moonlight Wolf King. The entire arena shook violently. The earth is constantly melting and freezing under the power of ice and fire. Under the baptism of ice and fire, the Moonlight Wolf King had no resistance at all, and his entire body had completely disappeared. Not even a trace of his body was left behind. If it is in the real world, the Moonlight Wolf King has no bones left. In that shocking scene, Xiaobai raised his head to the sky and roared loudly. Under the backdrop of flames and ice and snow, he seemed to be the king of ice and fire, coercing all directions. All of a sudden, there was silence in the arena. Everyone looked at Su Yun in shock. They know. Su Yun has made history today. I actually lost. The figure of the blood madman is slowly disappearing, but his face is incomparably inconceivable, even showing a kind of trance. He never imagined that someday I would actually lose to a high school student who was a third-tier beast master. What kind of monster is this? It made him do his best. They are far from opponents. Success. Ha ha ha. Well done, Su Yun. Lu Ruai laughed out of nowhere. Enter the results. The 9th High School Su Yun, the 3rd test results, exhibition. Xiao Feiyu took a deep breath and said to the examiner beside him. I know. The examiner also looked excited, and even his tone trembled. In Fengsing University's college entrance examination, all 3 exams were perfect. This is the first time such a result has appeared since Fengsing University was founded. 3rd exam passed perfectly. Even the veteran 4th rank beast master can't stop his victory. Such strength, how powerful. All the students of 9th High School were also in a daze at this moment. They stared blankly at Su Yun, as if they were watching the beginning of a legend. Click. The door to the metal bin was not open. Su Yun walked out slowly from inside. Everyone looked at this figure. After a brief silence, the entire examination hall has been plunged into boiling. Su Yun perfectly passed the 3rd test. Definitely the strongest genius in the history of Jinfeng City. This moment, no matter who, they have already deeply remembered the name Su Yun. Under everyone's attention, Su Yun came to the queue of No. 9 middle school whose exams had already been completed, walked up to Gaofeng and Lu Yutong, and said, How are the grades of the 2 of you? Seeing Su Yun's arrival, both Gaofeng and Lu Yutong's eyes were a little dull. Wait until Su Yun speaks. They just reacted. 380. Gaofeng said, Ha ha ha, you are indeed my best friend. From now on, you will call you my brother when you go out. No one will show you some face. As for the exam, don't worry at all, although I'm not as exaggerated as you, I should still be admitted. Lu Yujiao smiled and said, I don't have any problems with my grades. Please give me more advice in college. Su Yun said, This is good. Li Qianer also came over at this time and said, Sure enough, your real strength is far beyond my imagination. Su Yun said, Why, don't want to challenge me in the future? HMPH, how is this possible? No matter what, you are my goal, and it is absolutely impossible for me to give up. Li Qianer snorted coquettishly. She didn't know what she thought of. A lovely blush appeared on her cheeks. She said softly, Hello, Cloud, what's wrong? Do you have a girlfriend? Su Yun blinked, subconsciously said, No, you don't want to chase me, do you? To tell you the truth, my requirements are very high. Puff. The peak on the side almost sprayed out. I'll go. As expected of my brother, you can say such a shameless thing. Why, so what if this girl just wants to chase you? Li Qian'er's face was flushed red, leaving such a sentence, she had already fled. Su Yun looked at Li Qian'er's back, and finally smiled softly. This woman. Lu Yutong also reacted, and his teeth were itching with anger, only feeling as if he was at a disadvantage. Subconscious. Lu Yutong looked at Su Yun, and Su Yun's expression became a little awkward. Hey, no way. Gao Gao keenly noticed this scene, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly, accompanied by extreme sadness. He is so handsome. Why no girls like it? Ha ha ha. Su Yun, well done. From now on, 9th High School will be proud of you. With a loud laugh, Lu Ruai had already come in front of Su Yun, with an expression of admiration on his face. Su Yun said modestly, it all depends on the teaching of the school. I believe that for an outstanding graduate like me, the school will reward me accordingly. Su Yun is very clear. No matter which school, there will be an award for students with outstanding performance in the college entrance examination. Haha, you boy is waiting for me here. Lu Ruai patted Sun Yun's shoulder and said. Don't worry, you have achieved such a result, not only our 9th High School, but even Jinfeng City will definitely give you the reward you deserve. I don't know if I can choose the reward myself. Su Yun's eyes lit up and he said immediately. Why, do you need anything, you can tell me. Lu Ruai had a gentle face. But thanks to the headmaster, I need. Su Yun immediately reported some materials, some of which were the evolution materials he lacked. Of course, there are some other things mixed in, just to confuse the public. He didn't want anyone to think of his evolution as a beast master. You really are a lion with a big mouth. A look of astonishment appeared on Lu Ruai's face, and then he laughed and cursed. These things are truly precious resources, but don't worry, I will definitely try my best to help you fight for them. Then I would like to thank the principal. Su Yun nodded with a smile, and was not afraid of exposing the existence of the interspatial bag. He took out a large number of credit cards from it and said. There are still these, I hope the principal can replace them all with training resources 0. Su Yun is very clear. Only in the hands of someone like Lu Ruai will the money be of maximum value. As for whether Lu Ruai is greedy for these things, it is completely impossible. Although the money is astonishing, it will not make Lu Ruai, who is a 5th-level beast master, be moved. Not to mention it was something from him, the #1 scholar in 100 cities, who brought great honor to the entire 9th High School. Looking at the stack of limit cards that Su Yun took out, Lu Ruai looked a little confused. He knew the origin of these limit cards in an instant. After all this kind of thing, he didn't do much when he was young. It's not unreasonable for you to have such strength. Since this is the case, then rest assured to leave it to me, I will definitely maximize their value. Lu Ruai took a deep look at Su Yun, and conveniently put the limit card into his interspatial pocket. Lu Ruai took a deep look at Su Yun, and said. Give me a few days to help you get it all done. Thank you, Principal. Su Yun smiled lightly and said. Then I will take my leave first. Lu Ruai looked at Su Yun's leaving back, and the expression in his eyes became more and more appreciative. The prospects for the first are limitless. Although the money is not worth mentioning to him. But for Su Yun, it is definitely a great wealth. You can teach yourself this. It is enough to illustrate Su Yun's courage. And only such characters. Only then can you go further on the road of beast control. The college entrance examination is successfully completed. In the college entrance examination of Fengsing University, Su Yun achieved perfect results in 3 exams and became the #1 scholar in 100 cities. All of a sudden, Su Yun's genius name, it has spread throughout Jinfeng City, and even the entire Federation. Everyone was shocked by the news. It was completely unexpected that such a peerless genius would appear in Jinfeng City, which ranks in the middle of all cities. Early morning, Su Yun had already received Lu Ruai's notice and went straight to the school. The college entrance examination ended. 3rd graders have graduated. Other students are enjoying their summer vacation. So the whole school seemed extremely deserted. Su Yun came to the office building, took the elevator, came to the door of the principal's office, and politely knocked on the door. Come in. Su Yun pushed the door open and entered. Lu Ruai said with a smile on his face. Sit down. Su Yun was also not polite at all, moved the chair and sat down gently. Here, this is the reward promised to you, but I only found part of the resources you need, and the rest seems to only need your own efforts. As for the money, I have already exchanged all of it for cultivation resources, which will definitely give you more value for money. Lu Ruai took out the space bag and took out a lot of items. No matter what, I still want to thank the principal. Su Yun smiled, and began to organize his belongings, putting everything into the space bag one after another. In addition to the evolutionary resources he needs, other cultivation resources are also dazzling. In addition to these, there are also some spiritual potions suitable for third-tier beast masters. There is also a very exquisite book of spiritual art. This cheat book is completely different from any cheat book Su Yun has seen before. The material is very special and very tough. Name: Mental Stab. Function: Spiritual Stabbing, hurting the enemy invisible. Enhancement of resource points 0/100. It turned out to be a spiritual attack spirit technique. Su Yun looked at this secret book, and his pupils shrank deeply. Spiritual spells. Compared with ordinary attacking spirit spells, they are all rarer and more powerful. It can be said to be one of the weirdest spiritual arts. When facing the enemy, it may even make people die inexplicably. Well, let's be pleasantly surprised. Lu Ruai looked at Su Yun, smiled gently and said, "This is my personal treasure, now it's cheap for you." "Thank you, Principal." Su Yun put away the secret books of spiritual arts and said very sincerely, "This spiritual book, absolutely priceless, can't even buy it." "No need, you have won such great glory for 9th high school, and you deserve it." Lu Ruai said, "Your admission notice has come down, and there are still 2 months before the start of the fencing university, so you can manage the registration time yourself." "Understood, Principal." Su Yun nodded. Su Yun left school and returned home. Without any hesitation, directly select the upgrade for the spiritual stab. Name: Spirit Sword. Function: Spiritualize the sword, hurt the enemy invisible, the stronger the spirit, the stronger the power. Another spiritual art with infinite potential. Feeling the memory that suddenly appeared in Su Yun's mind, a smile appeared on the corner of Su Yun's mouth. Him now, relying on spiritual power to form an spiritual sword. If it is not a royal beast, it also has a huge lethality. Next, is Xiaobai's evolution. Su Yun took out some items from the interspatial bag, and a scorching heat flashed in his eyes. Although the evolutionary resources he requested this time were not fully assembled, Xiaobai's evolutionary resources were already fully satisfied. "Come out, White." Su Yun beckoned, and Xiaobai had already been summoned. Woo! As soon as Xiaobai appeared, he wanted to land on Su Yun's shoulder, but was stopped. "Okay, Xiaobai, now you are going to evolve." Su Yun touched Xiaobai's head, and said gently, "Woo!" Xiaobai immediately became excited, looked at the materials on the ground, and started running around. Su Yun didn't care either. Mutation evolution was directly selected. All of a sudden, countless resources have turned into streaks of light, forming a huge cocoon of light, directly covering Xiaobai completely. Su Yun observed for a while. After discovering that there were no accidents, he also poured out all the resources from the space bag in one go, picked out some resources that he would use and put them away, and then began to transform these resources. Ding! The host of Jiaoshi has obtained 50 resource points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining 100 resource points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining 200 resource points. A full half an hour passed. All resources have been converted. Resource point: 53,612. Looking at the digital customization of resource points, Su Yun also took a deep breath. There are more than 50,000 resource points. Once all used, it will definitely make the strength of all his beasts undergo earth-shaking changes. He hesitated a little. Su Yun didn't use the resource point immediately. Today Xiaobai is in the process of evolution and is likely to acquire new skills. It is most appropriate to wait until the evolution is complete to strengthen the resource points together. Time passed slowly. Su Yun also did not practice. Instead, he quietly watched Xiaobai's light cocoon. That special connection between the two let him clearly feel that Xiaobai's body is undergoing drastic changes. Finally, there was a slight movement in Guang cocoon. Click. A trace of cracks appeared on the light cocoon, as if there were colorful rays of light surging out from the cracks. With the complete rupture of the light cocoon, a snow-white, elegant and vigorous figure has appeared in front of Su Yun. The 6 long tails sway in midair, giving people a strange sense of beauty. Su Yun's expression changed. Xiaobai's brand new attribute has appeared before his eyes. Name: 6-tailed demon fox. Cultivation information view. Level: command the 7th level. Talent: top speed talent, top fire control talent, top ice control talent, top lightning control talent, top steel control talent. Attribute: ice, fire, steel, thunder. Bloodline: high overlord level. Skills: breath of ice, cracked claws, fangs of ice, breath of fire, breath of thunder, armor of ice, body of flame, liberation of origin, speed of thunder, frozen 100 miles, burning fire, thunder hell, metal storm, metal skin. Natural evolution: ice soul crystal x10, fire soul crystal x10, thunder soul crystal x10, steel soul crystal x10, overlord beast core x5. Variation evolution: ice soul stone x30, fire soul crystal x30, thunder soul crystal x10, steel soul crystal x10, overlord beast core x50, phantom soul. Not only have 2 new attributes been added, but has the bloodline reached the level of a high-level overlord. Seeing Xiaobai's new attributes, Su Yun couldn't hide the joy on his face. Follow this trend. Xiaobai has evolved all the way. It is very likely to become a beast master with all attributes, and there will be no shortcomings at that time. Moreover, the bloodline of the high-level overlord is even more like a legendary existence. He is the absolute king whose king's land is above the emperor level. At least as far as Su Yun knows. A strong man with the hegemony level bloodline of beast familiar, not to mention in the entire Sea Blue Federation, even in other countries outside, is definitely a famous big shot. Sure enough, it was the right decision to leave the resource point just now. Su Yun touched Xiaobai's white hair and whispered, "Everyone come out." Near the summoning circle. The figures of King Kong Ape King and Shadow Beast have appeared in the room. Wheeze. Foofer. The 2 beasts let out a cry, and were about to pounce on Su Yun, but immediately found something was wrong. His eyes couldn't help looking towards Xiaobai's direction. Foofer. The Shadow Beast floated towards Xiaobai, looked at Xiaobai curiously, and uttered a cry, as if congratulating Xiaobai. The Vajra Ape King froze in place. What's the situation? This guy seems to have gotten a lot stronger. It's over, I'm 1 step closer to the boss's throne. Woo. Xiaobai glanced at the Vajra Ape King, with a playful look on his face. Look at you, big fool. Do you still dare to challenge me in the future? Okay, you 2 restrain yourself, now my house can't stand your toss. Su Yun glanced at Xiaobai and King Kong, reprimanded him in a low voice, and then turned his attention to his resource points. He pondered for a moment. Su Yun first added points to the Vajra Ape King. Now the King Kong Ape King's defense is sufficient, so Su Yun plans to upgrade the advanced speed talent and top strength talent first. At that time, with the attack and defense of the Vajra Ape King, coupled with the speed, it will definitely be a nightmare for all enemies. Then develop other skills in an all-round way. With a single thought, Su Yun thought. A large number of resource points have disappeared from the panel. Advanced Speed Talent LV5. Death Rush LV10. Top Strength Talent LV5. Smash Punch LV15. So far, except for the special skill of Talent and Smashing Fist, all the skills of King Kong Ape King have reached the limit state. Subsequently, Su Yun set his sights on the Shadow Beast, and began to upgrade all the skills crazily. Shadow Blade LV10. Shadow Binding LV10. Shadow Storm LV10. Shadow Flame LV10. Top Dark Control Talent LV5. Is Shadow Flame a special skill? Su Yun glanced at all the skills and nodded secretly. However, it's really expensive. Seeing that he only had more than 2,500 resource points left, the corner of Su Yun's mouth was a bit bitter. Just a Satsuna just now. If converted in terms of resources, he has spent at least 300 million sea blue coins. Shook his head. Su Yun's expression changed, and he began to add points to Xiaobai. Top Speed Talent LV5. Source Liberation LV15. Thunder Speed LV5. Frozen Berry LV5. Burning Fire LV5. Thunder Hell LV5. Metal Storm LV5. Metal Skin LV5. So far, all of Su Yun's resource points have been completely consumed. He set his expectant eyes on several beasts. This is definitely the time he has strengthened the most resource points since he obtained the system. Roar. The King Kong Ape King's first reaction was that his already huge body began to swell again. The muscles all over the body became stronger, as if they were real steel. It happened. Su Yun's expression changed. Seeing that the Vajra Ape King was about to reach the roof, he immediately brought him into the beast monitoring space. Even for insurance purposes, Su Yun put Xiaobai away at the same time. Boom. Almost at the same time. The aura of the little white three beasts in the beast familiar space has begun to erupt crazily. Su Yun could clearly feel that the entire beast familiar space seemed to be in a state of stagnation. Even the void around the space was distorted, visible to the naked eye. The aura of the little white three beasts is also rising rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. The breath between them burst out. The entire space of the Beast Master has become extremely violent. If it weren't for the incomparably broad and strong space of Su Yun's Beast Masters, if they were replaced by other Beast Masters, they would all suffer serious damage to their own Beast Masters due to the sudden increase in their own Beast Master's strength. Roar. Woo. Comma. The three little white beasts roared up to the sky, and the violent aura from all over their bodies slowly retreated back into their bodies, and the aura on them finally stabilized. Xiaobai. Lord Fourfold. Vajra Ape King. Commanding the Ninefold. Shadow Beast. Command the seventh layer. At the same time, it was as if the power of the torrent and tsunami was also surging in Su Yun's body. He only felt that with his pure power now, even 10 commander-level beasts could defeat him. Looks like it's time to test the strength of the beasts. Su Yun sorted out his remaining sea blue coins and walked out of the room. The top floor of the training ground. The deepest training room. This is the premier training ground in the entire Jinfeng city, and even Su Yun came here for the first time. Because renting here once, at least tens of thousands of sea blue coins will be needed for an hour. But in contrast to this training ground is also the strongest, enough to withstand the full strength of a fourth-order beast master here. And this is why Su Yun chose here. Hello, King Qian, if you change to a former practitioner. Su Yun was really afraid that his imperial beast would tear it down. Yes, the training equipment here is many times more advanced than the training room in the school. Su Yun looked at the dazzling array of equipment in the spacious room, and nodded in satisfaction. Let's all come out. Su Yun waved his hand lightly. The summoning circle emerged. The three little white beasts have all jumped up from the summoning circle. Woo! As soon as Xiaobai appeared, he jumped onto Su Yun's shoulder and let out a joyful cry of rain. Oh, did it get lighter instead? Finally, he felt Xiaobai's weight unexpectedly, showing a touch of surprise. He really didn't think of it. After Xiaobai evolved, his weight was more than doubled than before. In contrast to this, the King Kong Ape King and the Shadow Beast have grown in size after their strength has been improved. Inside the top training room, Xiaobai and King Kong Ape, sitting beside him, were doing their own basic training. Su Yun pointed to the boulder in front, and said to the Shadow Beast. Shadow Beast, use Shadow Blade one after another. Chick, chick, 2 pitch-black shadow blades have burst out from the body of the Shadow Beast, directly cutting a scratch at the same position on the boulder in front. The accuracy is there, but the timing is still wrong. Su Yun looked at everything in front of him and shook his head slightly. He intends to fuse the Shadow Blade, and then increase the power of the Shadow Blade. However, this method requires not only a strong control over the energy of the dark system, but also a grasp of timing and accuracy. Fufu, the Shadow Beast barked twice, with a somewhat discouraged expression. You don't need to look like this. Su Yun rubbed his head reassuringly, and said. It was like this at the beginning, just work hard. Come on, let's continue. The Shadow Beast nodded vigorously, and 2 more shadow blades flew out. The 2 shadow blades flew one after the other in the air, with a faint tendency to fuse together, and finally landed on the boulder. Look, isn't it good? Su Yun smiled and praised. Continue. The Shadow Beast constantly used the Shadow Blade in the training ground, cutting deep ravines towards the boulder in front of it. Over time, the boulder has become dilapidated. The fusion of the two shadow blades is becoming more and more perfect, and the power that erupts is also getting stronger and stronger. Even Su Yun had to ask the staff to replace the training boulders. Seeing the progress of the shadow beasts, the little white beasts also felt the pressure, especially King Kong Ape King. Even without Su Yun's urging, the training had become even harder. I couldn't beat Xiaobai already. If you let the shadow beast go beyond. It's really embarrassing. A week later, the shadow beast is still tirelessly releasing the shadow blade. It's every shot. It will shake the boulder in front of you. A huge roar resounded. Laugh. A ray of light seemed to flash in the shadow beast's eyes, only to see a shadow blade that was deeper than pitch black, bursting out from its body, carrying an extremely sharp aura, tearing the air instantly. Click. The boulder not far ahead was split into two in an instant, and even the wall in the distance was cut into a deep ravine. Well done, Shadow Beast, it seems that you have successfully completed the fusion of 5 shadow blades. Su Yun watched this scene and nodded in satisfaction. Shadow Beast possesses the top talent for controlling darkness. Hard enough in itself, it deserves such an achievement in the past few days. And at this time, the piercing sirens began to echo through the city. This is the siren of the beast horde. Su Yun's expression changed, and he immediately looked out the window. I only saw that the streets were in chaos at this time, and countless ordinary people began to enter the underground shelters under the organization of the patrol team. And outside the city, the earth-shattering roar sounded continuously. It is clear, the guarding force of the city has already started a confrontation with the beast horde. This time the beast horde is so sudden that the whole city is not prepared for it. Looking at all this, Su Yun's face has become a little gloomy, and there is still a trace of doubt. Since ancient times, human beings are all threatened by imperial beasts. Until the appearance of the Beast Master, humanity finally had a chance to breathe. But even so, facing the overwhelming tide of beasts, sometimes it is extremely difficult for humans to resist. But under normal circumstances, once the beast tide takes shape, the patrol personnel on the outskirts of the city should be aware of it and ask the people in the city to take refuge in time. And at this time, above the originally dark night, there seemed to be a burst of blood emerging. A round of blood-colored full moon appeared in the night sky at some unknown time. This is the mark of the Blood Moon organization, so it seems that this beast tide must be the ghost of them. Su Yun looked at the bloody full moon under the night, and his expression couldn't help but change. Blood Moon organization, not just in the Sea Blue Federation. Even in other countries, it is definitely famous. This is a very well-known terrorist organization. No one knows their purpose. Just know when they show up. It will surely bring panic and destruction. Between decades. I don't know how many cities have been completely destroyed because of them. No matter what, we need to go to the city wall as soon as possible. Su Yun quickly left the room and ran towards the street. Other countries do not know. But in the Sea Blue Federation, any free beast master, under the situation that the city is facing the crisis of beast tide, everyone has a responsibility to step up. Not to mention, the city is also his hometown. Spiritualization, gigantic. As soon as Su Yun pointed out, Xiaobai's figure had expanded several times, and he turned over and rode on it. Woo! With a long roar, Xiaobai started to run wildly on the street with Su Yun. King Kong Ape King and Shadow Beast followed closely behind. But it didn't take long. In the whole city, this also resounded the sky-shattering explosion. Boom, boom, boom. One building after another was destroyed, and the entire city fell into complete chaos. Have people from the Blood Moon organization entered the city yet? Su Yun stopped walking and looked into the distance. Only one street was seen. The light of the summoning circle flickered away. A gigantic monster appeared there at some point. Name: Black Mammoth. Level: Lord First Level. Talent: Intermediate Defensive Talent. Attribute: Soil. Bloodline: Low Lord. Skills: Soil Spike, Ground Crack, Brutal Charge, Rock Skin. Su Yun patted Xiaobai and said, "Xiaobai, go there." Compared with guarding the city wall, dealing with these members of the Blood Moon organization who are raging in the city is undoubtedly a more important thing. If you really let them be unscrupulous, the guarding force of the city is bound to be attacked from both sides, and the whole city is very likely to be breached by then. Then the consequences are absolutely unimaginable. Bang, bang, bang. The black mammoth, several feet tall, kept rampaging in the city. Wherever they passed, the streets all collapsed, and the buildings were all torn apart. And around, there are also other various beasts that are constantly being summoned, raging crazily in the city. After hearing the news, the patrol team started a fierce battle with the members of the blood organization who manipulated these beasts. But the fight didn't last long at all. The members of the patrol team have already fallen into a comprehensive disadvantage. Although the number of patrols is superior, but most of them are ordinary first and second rank beast masters. Facing the black mammoth of the Lord Yizhong, no one is an enemy at all. Almost every minute and every second, members of the patrol will die. And at this time, a young figure riding a six-tailed white fox has already stepped into this battlefield. Student, this is not the place for you, please stay away from here. Seeing Su Yun's arrival, some members of the patrol team who didn't notice Su Yun's cultivation at all, but just looked at his immature face, immediately reminded in a panic. As a student, you must not compromise this place. Hearing this, Su Yun just smiled gently at him, and then rode Su Yun towards the direction of the black mammoth. Roar! As if sensing something, the black mammoth raised its nose high, let out a violent roar, and suddenly changed direction, rushing in the direction that Su had gone. It happened. The expressions of some members of the patrol team changed, and a look of sadness flashed in their eyes. Hey, a student dared to come here to seek death, and was targeted by a black mammoth as soon as he appeared, it's really bad luck. Seeing this scene, the members of the Blood Moon organization around had a sneer on the corners of their mouths, and their eyes were full of tyranny. In their eyes, this student is doomed to be trampled to pieces by a black mammoth. Some people noticed Su Yun's cultivation as a third-tier beast master. But he didn't care at all. Even a third-tier beast master cannot deal with a lord-level black mammoth. But what happened next? But it horrified everyone. I only saw that the black mammoth was getting closer and closer to Su Yun. But in the face of all this, Su Yun's expression was very indifferent. Not to mention directing Xiaobai to attack. He didn't even have the slightest intention of dodging. Roar, accompanied by a growl, the Vajra Ape King who was following Su Yun finally arrived. It leapt up and landed on the ground. Explosion of strange power. The muscles all over its body began to swell rapidly, and an incomparably violent aura swept across the audience, causing the surrounding ground to shatter at a speed visible to the naked eye. Next moment, the Vajra Ape King had already stepped forward, and punched hard at the black mammoth that was close at hand. Boom! A muffled sound echoed, and a large amount of blood splashed out from the black mammoth, making it let out a violent howl, and the entire huge body flew upside down, leaving a trail about a deep ravine of several feet. After finishing all this, the Vajra Ape King immediately launched a charge, bursting out at a speed that was completely inconsistent with his figure, and directly caught up with the black mammoth that was flying upside down, and even grabbed him with both hands' nose, forcibly stopped his tendency to fly backwards. Roar! The Vajra Ape King let out a roar, and the muscles all over his body were like high-speed iron. He directly grabbed the black mammoth's nose, and threw this huge monster several times his size into the air. Boom! The body of the black mammoth hit the ground hard. The entire earth began to vibrate crazily, and the surrounding buildings also trembled constantly. The black mammoth let out a mournful wail. He struggled to stand up, but was thrown down again by the King Kong Ape King. Boom! 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 The huge roar flickered one after another. The entire battlefield seemed to have been shaken violently. At first, the black mammoth could howl a few times, but in the end it was completely dead. Everyone has all froze in place, looking at the Vajra Ape King in disbelief. He was completely overwhelmed by the unreasonable power of the Vajra Ape King. This rampage, the beast familiar, who had caused countless casualties to members of the patrol team, died just like that, without any resistance. What did you do? A roar came, and a figure had appeared next to the black mammoth's body. Looking at all this, a savage look flashed in his eyes. This is a young man with a scar on his face, wearing a black robe with a crimson crescent moon printed on the robe, and his aura has reached the 4th level. Great, Master Fei is here. See the emergence of youth. All the ordinary members of the Blood Moon organization breathed a sigh of relief. You can actually kill a black mammoth, I admit that you have some skills. Meng Fei looked at Su Yun, the killing intent in his eyes was undisguised, and he said in a low voice. But you will definitely die here today. As Meng Fei's words fell, the summoning circle has emerged. A powerful breath instantly swept through the audience. Name: Red Lion Beast. Level: Lord 4. Talent: Intermediate Defensive Talent, Intermediate Fire Control Talent. Attribute: Fire. Bloodline: Low Lord. Skills: Breath of Fire, Flame Ring, Flame Claw, Bite. Red Lion Beast, use the Flame Ring. Meng Fei said coldly. Flames blazed all over the red stone beast's body, and a large number of flames formed a series of rings, enveloping the direction of the Vajra Ape King. Vajra Ape King, harden. The Vajra Ape King charged forward, and his whole body was covered with a metallic luster. Under the horrified gaze of everyone, the Vajra Ape King relied on his terrifying brute force to forcefully smash the ring of fire into pieces. Even more frightening, the Vajra Ape King was not injured all over his body, not even a trace of burnt hair. What kind of defense is this? Are you kidding me? A cry of exclamation came from the mouths of the members of the Blood Moon organization. Spirituality, gigantic. As soon as Su Yun pointed out, a rune appeared and landed on the body of the running Vajra Ape King. Boom! Under everyone's shocking eyes, the body of the Vajra Ape King has suddenly expanded 10 times, as if it was a frightening monster in the legend, exuding an endless terrifying aura. Its huge body seemed to completely cover the moonlight, and completely shrouded the Red Lion Beast in its own figure, just like a bland punch. Boom! The earth trembled. The Red Lion Beast didn't even have time to utter a whine, its entire body had already been smashed deeply into the ground by this punch, killing it instantly. This moment, the entire ground presents a huge incomparable depression. The surrounding buildings began to tremble and shake continuously, a scene like the earth shaking and mountains shaking. How can be able to? Meng Fei's face was full of horror, looking at the huge monster, his whole body was trembling for it. Immediately afterwards, a boundless fear has enveloped him. All he could see was the feet of the Vajra Ape King, which looked like a huge millstone, already trampling towards him. Spiritual art, aperture. Meng Fei shouted loudly, and his spiritual power turned into bursts of light circles, completely surrounding it. But none of this made the slightest sense. Under this foot, the circle of spiritual power had already shattered in an instant, and Meng Fei's whole body was also crushed to a pulp in an instant, and he died on the spot. This moment, the entire battlefield was silent. Whether it's a member of the Blood Moon organization or a patrol, they all subconsciously stopped. He stared at all this with horror on his face. After a long while, all the patrol members let out a cheer. It's so strong. Too strong. Is this really a student? The 4th rank Beastmaster is dead, it's our turn to fight back. In comparison, the faces of the members of the Blood Moon organization have turned slightly pale. The leader of their team, Meng Fei, is dead, and the situation will be overwhelmingly unfavorable to them. Now that things have come to an end, this brat must be killed first. Some members of the Blood Moon organization had a look of madness in their eyes, and they landed on Su Bing. Come on, kill him, Kanglang Beast. Get rid of him. The purple rock worm. But only in the blink of an eye. There are 2 third-tier beast masters who have commanded the beasts to attack Su Yun. They had no intention of making an enemy of the Vajra Ape King at all. As long as the beast master is killed first, no matter how strong the beast master is, it is meaningless. But they completely ignore it. Xiaobai's cold gaze under Su Yun. Dare to hit the master's idea. These people must die. Xiaobai opened his mouth slightly, a boundless chill had already spread, and the surrounding temperature began to drop rapidly. Breath of ice. A terrifying cold wind rippling out of Xiaobai's mouth, sweeping the audience like a storm. Silently, the figures of Kanglang Beast and Xian Worm have stagnated in midair, turned into huge ice blocks, and fell down without a trace. The terrifying cold wind continued to castrate, not only the 2 who shot, but even a large number of members of the Blood Moon organization and the Imperial Beasts were all frozen in place. Spiritual impact. Su Yun raised his hand slightly, and the mighty spiritual power turned into an impact, and it had already landed on these humans and beasts. Click. All the ice sculptures completely shattered and turned into water corpses. After finishing all this, Su Yun said lightly, King Vajra Ape, get rid of them all. Get Su Yun's order. The Vajra Ape King has rushed into the battlefield excitedly, and every punch he swings has a powerful force, directly blasting the enemies one by one. It seemed as if blood had rained on the battlefield. The Vajra Ape King turned into a monster bathed in blood, which made everyone terrified. Strange, monster, retreat quickly. Yes, find other adults to deal with this monster. The remaining Blood Moon members had already completely lost their will to fight, and turned around and ran away without hesitation. If you want to run, how can it be so easy? Su Yun said coldly. Shadow Beast, shadow bound. The Shadow Beast I couldn't hold back anymore. Its own shadow began to extend infinitely, as if turning into tentacles, entangled tightly on the feet of the fleeing people, making them unable to move at all for a while. All of a sudden, as the Vajra Ape King moved back and forth, all the enemies in the field had been wiped out by him, turning into flesh and blood all over the ground. Roar! The Vajra Ape King beat his chest with both hands, and let out a roar like beating a drum. The sky-shattering roar reverberated between heaven and earth for a long time. Let's go elsewhere. Su Yun ordered that King Kong Ape King had already been brought into the beast familiar space, and rode Xiaobai towards the distance in a posture more suitable for movement. Wherever you go, all members of the patrol have voluntarily stepped out of the way. Everyone looked at Su Yun's figure with unconcealable awe. Although Su Yun is just a student, but the great strength displayed has conquered them all. Under the night, Su Yun riding Xiaobai seems to have turned into a white god of death. Wherever you go, start a frenzied killing. Xiaobai, breath of fire. The terrifying flames have completely enveloped several members of the Blood Moon organization. They didn't even have time to let out a howl, just vaguely saw the indifferent figure riding on the white fox, and completely lost consciousness. Rumble. The flames scorched the earth, and the ground would melt under this force, as if it could burn everything. But Xiaobai is stepping on the flames, carrying the moonlight and disappearing into the boundless moonlight. Then, who is that boy? How powerful. That's right. I seem to have read his report. He is the first talent in our Jinfeng city, the champion of 100 cities. Su Yun. Seeing his opponent being killed in an instant, the members of several patrol teams all froze in place. And Su Yun at this time, take advantage of Xiaobai's speed, has appeared in another battlefield. Kid, I'm going to kill you. A member of the Blood Moon organization roared at Su Yun, and the summoning circle had already emerged on the ground. Shadow Beast, dark beginning. A pitch-black shadow blade instantly melted into the night. Pooh! The sound of blood spattering sounded. The body of this Blood Moon member has been split into two. Su Yun hugged the Shadow Beast and said coldly, "Don't talk so much next time." Xiaobai walked forward, and by the way ended up with the beast that had just been summoned and suffered heavy injuries due to the death of its master. Chapter 71. Sure enough, simple cultivation can never compare to a real life and death battle. Su Yun was riding on Xiaobai's back, feeling the strong wind blowing, smelling the strong smell of blood in the air, but a look of excitement flashed across his face. Because of his keen discovery. In this state, whether it is him or his own beast, the strength is changing faintly. Especially him. A body of spiritual power has already moved towards the middle stage of the third order. The sounds of fighting and screaming seemed to be a symphony, constantly echoing under the entire night. That's it. Su Yun has appeared in another battlefield. Xiaobai, breath of fire. Shadow Beast, blade of shadow. Su Yun commanded the two little white beasts to kill calmly. He was dressed in pure white casual clothes, which had already been stained red by the blood floating in the air. I don't know how long it has been. Around Su Yun, countless corpses have been lying down. There are beasts, and even humans. Their deaths are all kinds of strange things. Some are divided into two. Some were turned into coke by flames. This is really a student. How powerful. The few remaining patrolling personnel were supporting each other in the corner, staring at the field in shock. Only to see Su Yun as the center, dozens of members of the Blood Moon organization have already surrounded Su Yun. But they didn't have the slightest worry, because the corpse under Su Yun's feet has already proved his strength. Su Yun stroked Xiaobai's hair, looked around, and said mockingly, "Why, aren't you guys going to make a move? Don't tell me all the dignified Blood Moon organizations are like this. This monster, Hearing Su Yun's words, no one dared to act rashly, but a look of fear appeared in their eyes. This monster, the beasts it possesses are too terrifying. Compared to him, I've lived on dogs all my life. One cursed in a low voice. If it wasn't for that adult who was about to come and gave him confidence, no matter what he said, he wouldn't want to face this person in front of him. This little ghost is only a third-level cultivation base, and he actually has a special talent. It is too terrifying to own a Lord-level six-tailed fox. Su Yun looked at these people, shook his head gently, and said, "Forget it, since you guys don't make a move, then I'll take the initiative to do it. Little Bai, drop them." Xiao Bai's figure flickered and turned into a stream of white light, appearing behind one person. Phew, a lot of blood was spilled. The man's head had been flying high, and fell down powerlessly. That fox left, chance, because his family went abroad to kill this little Rain. One person watched his companion die, but he didn't feel any sadness, but his eyes lit up, and he shouted, "Come on, giant crocodile." A huge crocodile was quickly found directly above the ground and went straight to Su Yun. "You don't think that I only have Xiao Bai to form a combat power?" Su Yun stroked the shadow beast in his arms, and said, "Let them see the power of your cultivation, shadow beast, use the East City Shadow Blade." Laugh. Two pitch-black shadow blades appeared in the night almost at the same time, directly and quickly merged, cutting the ground with ease. Silently. The body of the giant crocodile has already stagnated in place, the whole body has been split into two, fell to the sides, and landed in a pool of blood. Rumble. The earth began to roar crazily. The shadow blade continued to castrate, as if it wanted to completely cut off the entire earth, directly submerging several members of the Blood Moon organization. Wait until everything has completely dissipated. A huge gully about several feet long has appeared on the ground. This imperial beast is also a monster. All Blood Moon members looked at the shadow beast with horror on their faces. But it hasn't waited for them to come back to their senses. Su Yun's nightmare-like words have already echoed in the air. "Little Bai, the fire is burning." For Xiao Bai, who appeared behind everyone, endless flames had already bloomed from his mouth, directly turning into a monstrous sea of flames in midair. Boom! The flames that covered the sky and the earth fell down like a tide, directly turning the land in front of them into a sea of blood. Tear apart the flames, Frost Beast. Spiritual spell, water flow. All the Blood Moon members looked at their companions being burned into coke one after another, their faces were already full of horror, and they all began to do their best. But under the raging fire, there is no meaning at all. Only some people with water-type beasts are still struggling, and the rest of them resisted for a while before dying tragically under the flames. "Shadow beasts, get rid of them, use Shadow Storm," Su Yun said indifferently. Bursts of light flashed in the shadow beast's eyes, and the dark energy shot up into the sky, turned into a huge tornado, and fell directly into the raging fire. Rumble. The shadow storm raged crazily. Directly turned into the last straw that broke the camel's back. Ah 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 ah. The wailing was stronger than ever, but it stopped abruptly between Setsuna. Wait until everything dissipates. On the scorched ground, there were only corpses left on the ground. Seeing this scene, the members of the patrol team were all excited and wanted to come forward to express their thanks, but Su Yun stretched out his hand to stop them. "What's wrong?" Several members of the patrol team subconsciously stopped, only seeing Su Yun's gaze, looking at the street in the distance. Under everyone's comments, a man wearing a Blood Moon robe has come out from a dark corner. His steps were very steady, obviously not revealing the slightest spiritual power, but every step seemed to be stepping on everyone's heart, making people want to suffocate. He is the famous federal wanted criminal, Zhou Chen, and he also joined the Blood Moon organization. Looking at the man, the words of a patrol member trembled. It's not his fault either. Because this was a werewolf who had the record of killing a fourth-order peak powerhouse. You can say it without hesitation. Unless a fifth-level powerhouse, a king-level beast master, takes action, otherwise no one has the confidence to take down this person. You actually discovered my arrival in advance. It seems that you have a good investigative spirit technique. Zhou Chen took a deep look at Su Yun, and said slowly. But since you sensed me, and since you didn't escape early, it seems that you think you have the ability to fight me. But in a moment I'll let you know how wrong you are. The moment the voice fell, the summoning circle has emerged. A figure is looming in the magic circle. Name, Storm Eagle. Level, Lord Ye. Talent, Advanced Speed Talent, Intermediate Recovery Talent. Attribute, Wind. Bloodline, High Lord. Skills, Wind Blade Strike, Wind Blade, Gale Storm, Storm Roar, High Altitude Dive. Storm Eagle, Wind Blade Attack. The wings of the Storm Eagle flapped, and a strong wind suddenly blew up across the entire world. Next moment, the countless small wind blades seemed to have turned into sharp swords, covering the sky and covering the earth, covering Su Yun's direction. Have you blocked all my dodging positions? Su Yun looked at this scene, his eyes flickered slightly. But if it's just that, why should I dodge? Xiaobai, Fuyu. Xiaobai's 6 tails flickered continuously, as if countless thunderbolts were twinkling and flickering, sweeping towards the sky directly. Crackling. Following Xiaobai's movements, the vast and boundless thunder has already filled the void, as if it was a raging beast that devours everything, directly soaring into the sky. And the wind blade that filled the sky also carried an unimaginable coercion, and slammed into the endless thunder. Boom, boom, boom. The earth-shattering roar sounded continuously. A series of wind blades and thunder intertwined with each other, and a sky-shattering explosion broke out. The surrounding air seemed to be torn apart, and distortions visible to the naked eye appeared. Next moment, the wind blades that filled the sky had vanished into thin air, and were directly defeated by the thunderbolt. Quote. Pipe question mark quote. When Zhou Chen saw this scene, his pupils shrank deeply, and a look of fear flashed in his eyes. Without the slightest hesitation, he has already recruited his second main beast. Name, King Bee. Level, Lord 6th Layer. Talent, Advanced Speed Talent. Attribute, Insect. Bloodline, Middle Lord. Skills, Phantom, Poisonous Needle, Flying Sword Dance, Flashing Fast. Swish. As soon as the queen bee appeared, it had already received the order from its master, and its figure began to flicker rapidly in the air. All of a sudden, in the whole mid-air, it seemed that nearly 100 king bees had already appeared, densely covering the entire battlefield. It's now, Queen Bee, use the poisonous needle, Zhou Chen said coldly. All the queen bees moved, raised their giant needles shining with cold light, and moved towards Su Yun almost at the same time. A trick to apply phantoms with high-speed flickering. Su Yun looked at this scene, his eyes flickered slightly, but he didn't panic, and ordered indifferently. Shadow Beast, Shadow Screen. The Shadow Beast whined, and the shadow had already extended in all directions, turning into a huge cube, directly engulfing Su Yun and himself in it. Jingle. There was a sound like metal clanging. The poisonous needles fell on the shadow screen one after another, only making it appear in depressions, but they couldn't break through its defense at all. Su Yun's voice came from inside the cube. Xiaobai, Metal Storm. Xiaobai, who appeared in another place, turned his tail again, and countless iron elements turned into triangular pyramids, forming a huge storm that was raging in all directions. Rumble. Countless phantoms vanished. The air was completely torn apart by the metal storm. The ground below began to tremble crazily, being continuously bombarded to create cracks. The king bee also wailed, its body was swept by the metal storm, and it flew out directly. The queen bee. Zhou Chen's expression changed, his eyes were half distressed, half shocked. It never occurred to Xiaobai to have the ability of the steel system, and this kind of collective attack from all directions, with no dead ends at all. Spiritual art, wind, spiritual spells, use the shield. Zhou Chen performed 2 spirit spells in a row, and while defending, he also increased his speed at the same time, and retreated towards the rear. Not under unavoidable circumstances. Any beast master doesn't want to face head-to-head with the skills of the beast master, so he naturally doesn't have the slightest strength. Boom! The spiritual shield exploded, and Zhou Chen was swept by the aftermath of the blow. He only felt a sweetness in his throat, and strands of blood flowed down from the corner of his mouth. The screen around Su Yun slowly disappeared. Looking at Zhou Chen in the distance, he said with a smile. Hidden very quickly. But you can't hide forever. Xiaobai, Ice Claw. Xiaobai's figure instantly turned into a streak of white light, leaving streaks of water on the ground. Zhou Chen immediately shouted, Big Bee, Feijianwu. Flapping its wings, the queen bee has already returned to the side of its master. It exudes an incomparably sharp aura, as if it has turned into a swordsman in a martial arts novel. The long needle on its body has turned into an indestructible sword. Spirituality, penetration. Zhou Chen used a spiritual spell to act on the queen bee, making his Li's breath even more terrifying, and he rushed towards Xiaobai at a faster speed. Next moment, Xiaobai and the queen bee passed each other. Both of them stagnated in place at the same time. Boom, boom. A large amount of blood splashed out from De Wangfeng's body, but it was frozen on his body in an instant, and the whole body fell down, completely lifeless. I don't know how many royal beasts you have for me to kill. Su Yun looked at Zhou Chen and smiled slightly, but there was no smile in his eyes. This brat. Zhou Chen took a step back subconsciously, only feeling as if he had been watched by the god of death. Even the beast master who was at the peak of the 4th level back then did not bring him such a great pressure. A trace of cold sweat began to trickle down his forehead. Xiaobai moved forward slowly, staring at Zhou Chen with an extremely indifferent expression. Xiaobai, Ice Claw, swish. The moment Su Yun's voice sounded, Xiaobai had already turned into a white light. Storm Eagle, Gale Storm. The Storm Eagle, hovering above Zhou Chen's head, had already made preparations. Between the flapping of its wings, the mighty gust of wind seemed to turn into a shock wave, and headed towards the little white cage. Feeling the impact, a disdainful smile appeared on Xiaobai's face, his speed suddenly doubled during the burst, and he was easily out of the range of the strong wind. It happened. Zhou Chen's expression changed, and with a thought, the summoning circle had appeared in front of him, and a tiger with thunder patterns all over his body had jumped out. Name: Thunderstorm Tiger. Level: Lord Triple. Talent: Intermediate Lightning Control Talent, Intermediate Defense Talent, and Intermediate Speed Talent. Attribute: Thunder. Bloodline: Low Lord. Skills: Thunder Claw, Lightning Thunder, Thunder Waves, Thunder Roaring Cannon. Thunderstorm Tiger. Use Thunderstorm. Thunderstorm Tiger roared, and a large amount of lightning surged out of his mouth. Seemed to be like a stormy sea, completely covering everything in front of him. Zhou Chen's eyes flickered, and he had secretly sent a voice transmission to the Storm Eagle. Once Xiaobai made any unique moves, what awaited him would be an offensive like a violent storm. But Zhou Chen was destined to be disappointed. Su Yun said, "Xiaobai, ice armor." Xiaobai's whole body was filled with cold air, a large amount of frost covered his whole body, and finally turned into an incomparably exquisite ice armor, and he rushed directly towards the mighty thunder. What? Zhou Chen was horrified, only to see that Xiaobai had jumped out of the thunder. Although the ice armor all over his body was covered with cracks, he did not suffer any damage at all. The Fang of Ice. A white light flashed, and Xiaobai had already bitten Thunderstorm Tiger's neck fiercely. Endless cold air poured into Thunderstorm Tiger's body, continuously freezing his blood. Storm Eagle, dive high. Zhou Chen quickly issued an order. Swish. Surrounded by strong winds all over the Storm Eagle, the whole body has swooped down from high altitude, thinking ABDJ, to rescue Thunderstorm Tiger. Shadow Beast, bound by shadows. Su Yun said lightly. A large number of shadows extended from the Shadow Beast, wrapping around the Storm Eagle fiercely, making his originally extremely fast speed become extremely slow in an instant. A gleam of fear flashed across Lei Tianyu's eyes, and he could only feel his body gradually getting colder. Of a moment, Thunderstorm Tiger's whole body was already stiff, his whole body was covered with ice, and he completely lost the breath of life. Click. Xiaobai exerted a little force, and Thunderstorm Tiger's neck was bitten off abruptly, and blood-red ice crystals just fell to the ground. Zhou Chen looked at Lei Tianyu's body with a heartbroken face. Just as he was about to make the next move, the expression on his face changed drastically. Just because Xiaobai in front has already launched an offensive again. This time the speed has reached the extreme. He could only vaguely see streaks of white light flickering around him, feeling that he couldn't capture Xiaobai's position at all. Xiaobai, breath of fire. A flame appeared in the air, and the terrifying heat distorted the air. Zhou Chen cursed angrily, feeling the heat wave rushing towards his face, a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. Almost subconsciously, Zhou Chen summoned his last imperial beast. Name: Rock Bear. Level: Lord First Level. Talent: Intermediate Defense Talent, Low-Level Speed Talent. Attribute: Soil. Bloodline: Low Lord. Skills: Bear King Roar, Rock Armor, Rock Guardian. Rock Bear, Rock Armor, and Rock Guardian. A look of sadness flashed in the Rock Bear's eyes. He already understood the master's intentions, but he resolutely covered his whole body with rocks, and directly used himself as a shield, lying in front of Zhou Chen. Boom! Horrible flames erupted, the Rock Bear was completely swallowed, and the rock armor on its body began to melt at a speed visible to the naked eye. Without any hesitation, Zhou Chen floated into the distance after using the spirit technique. But even so, the aftermath of the rippling flames still burned one of his arms to blackness. It's amazing, without further ado, among all the opponents I have encountered, you may be the strongest. Su Yun glanced at Zhou Chen, who barely escaped the danger, and gave a faint compliment. After all, Zhou Chen's Beast Master is powerful on the one hand, and the other is his level of cultivating Beast Masters. This is the first time he has seen, besides himself, someone who has cultivated all his own beasts can keep up with his own cultivation. Then I would like to thank you for your compliment. Zhou Chen forced a smile. Suddenly spiritual power surged all over his body, and he waved his hand out. Spirit archery. The spiritual power turned into arrows, which were already shooting towards Su Yun. Almost at the same time, Zhou Chen's figure had jumped up and landed directly on the Storm Eagle. That Zhou Chen ran away. All the patrolling personnel looked at this scene with inconceivable expressions in their eyes. The offense and defense between Su Yun and Zhou Chen was simply dazzling. But it was only within a short period of time that the winner had already been decided. Want to run? Su Yun snorted coldly, waved one hand slightly, and his spiritual power turned into a barrier, blocking all the arrows from falling. Boy, I remember you. Zhou Chen gave Su Yun a ferocious look, and said, at that time, I will definitely kill all your relatives and friends, and let all your beings live in regret. Next moment, the Storm Eagle has already flapped its wings, wanting to leave here. With his speed and air superiority, if he escaped from a certain range, even Su Yun would have no choice but to do nothing. You wanna die? A cold light flashed in Su Yun's eyes, and his mental power surged out, like an invisible sword, falling on the Storm Eagle. Spirit Sword. The Storm Eagle's movement stopped abruptly, with extreme pain in its eyes. The flying attitude is already a little unstable. Xiaobai, breath of ice. Xiaobai raised his head, and a terrifying cold current surged out of his mouth, rushing towards the direction of the Storm Eagle. Oops! Zhou Chen's expression changed drastically, and his figure had jumped off the Storm Eagle. The Storm Eagle only had time to let out a wail, and its whole body was frozen into an ice sculpture, falling powerlessly from the sky. I must escape from here. Zhou Chen, who was sitting on the ground, didn't even glance behind him, just fled frantically into the distance. If he could meet the rest of the Blood Moon organization, he still had a glimmer of life. Shadow bound. The shadow beast let out a cry, and a large number of shadows spread rapidly under the darkness, wrapping tightly around Zhou Chen's leg, directly imprisoning it in place. Transformation of spirit power. With a wave of Su Yun's hand, a large amount of spiritual power turned into a big hand, which had already firmly grasped Zhou Chen in his hand. What did you just say? Do you want to do something to my family? Su Yun looked at Zhou Chen's fearful eyes, which were filled with cold killing intent. Next moment, the big hand with spiritual power suddenly changed, and under Su Yun's control, it directly turned into sharp thorns, piercing Zhou Chen completely in an instant. Ah! Zhou Chen's mournful wailing finally died away completely, and his face was still in extreme pain when he was dying. But Su Yun's expression was full of indifference. Be kind to your enemies. Just be cruel to yourself. What's more, Zhou Chen is such a vicious guy who wants to take action against people close to him. Seeing that all the battles were finally over, the remaining members of the patrol team staggered forward and saluted Su Yun. Thank you for saving your life. Su Yun waved his hand and said, no need, this is what I should do. After speaking, Su Yun wanted to turn around and go to other battlefields. But he was stopped by members of the patrol. Please wait a moment, Your Excellency is so powerful, I have a merciless request here. Su Yun stopped in his tracks, turned his head and looked over, motioning for him to continue talking. To tell you the truth, the 9th high school had a graduation party tonight, and a large number of students and teachers gathered there, but they were attacked and killed by the Blood Moon organization. We went to reinforce, but we encountered an ambush on the way. What did you say? Su Yun's expression changed, and an incomparably domineering aura erupted from all over his body. Even under his emotional agitation, the ground under his feet had already been stepped on with the slightest crack. Subconsciously, Su Yun took out his mobile phone, showing a black screen. I don't know when the phone is out of power and turned off. Hateful. Without any hesitation, Su Yun turned over and rode on Xiaobai's body, heading straight for the direction of 9th High School. As his alma mater, number 9 High School, he couldn't sit idly by in times of crisis, not to mention that Gao Feng and Lu Yutong might also be there. 9th High School. At this time here is already a mess. All kinds of shouts and killing sounds continued to resound. The once peaceful school has become a battlefield. You can see people fighting everywhere. There were also corpses lying horizontally on the ground. There are Beastmasters, Blood Moon Organization, and members of the patrol team. Avertisement. And in a playground, a group of students have been surrounded by people from the Blood Moon Organization and trapped in a corner. Am I going to die here? Seeing the members of the Blood Moon Organization approaching not far away with a ferocious expression, a look of unwillingness flashed in Lu Yutong's eyes, and a figure loomed in her mind. Listen up, everyone. I will try my best in a while. If I can open a gap, I can escape one by one. A teacher whispered to the students behind him, his tone full of absolute meaning. Even though he didn't believe it himself, only with him and the injured beast can do it all. But now he has no choice. As a teacher, at least die in front of the students. And at this time, boom, a stream of white light swooped down, as if a meteor had fallen to the ground, and waves of air swept across the audience, instantly setting off endless smoke and dust. Has support arrived? A look of joy appeared on the teacher's face. But as the smoke and dust gradually dissipated, the lonely figure of Su Yun emerged. His face was full of astonishment, and he subconsciously said, Su Yun. How is it you? No one else came with you? It's really just me. Su Yun nodded. Seeing Lu Yutong in the crowd, he also breathed a sigh of relief. The teacher's expression immediately turned to despair. Su Yun is indeed very strong, but what can he do in the face of so many people from the Blood Moon Organization? Lu Yutong looked at Su Yun, and the appearance in his mind gradually became clear, but then his face became anxious, and he shouted. Su Yun, hurry up, they shouldn't be able to keep you with your strength, don't die here in vain. Su Yun fell from Xiaobai's body and didn't reply. He just gave a look of my own, and looked at the members of the Blood Moon Organization who were approaching again from a distance. Haha, I was really surprised. It turned out to be another student who came to die. Hey, since he wants to court death, of course we have to fulfill him. All the members of the Blood Moon Organization laughed wildly, and without hesitation commanded the beasts around them to launch an offensive. Fire Wolf, use Flame Roar. Golden Roaring Beast, use Sonic Roaring Wave. Fly Thunderbird, use Thunderbolt. All of a sudden, all the Imperial beasts have already made their moves one after another, all kinds of skills burst out, and they have already covered Su Yun and others. Xiaobai, don't keep your hands, the vortex of ice and fire. Su Yun patted Xiaobai, obtained the command of the master. Xiaobai also let out a low roar of excitement, a hint of rebelliousness flashed in his eyes, and there seemed to be two completely different breaths of cold and hot coming together in his mouth. Boom, a vortex of ice and fire has spewed out from Xiaobai's mouth, and the front seems to have turned into a world where ice and fire merge. Terrifying power swept across the sky, as if everything would be destroyed by this blow. Next moment, all kinds of skills were all stagnated in the midair, and finally were completely swallowed by the ice and fire vortex, completely disappearing into thin air. Under one blow, all attacks have been turned into nothingness. In the playground, Su Yun stood behind Xiaobai, gently stroking the shadow beast in his arms. And he was right in front of him. It was already a mess. The originally extremely hard ground was already filled with frost and flames. Even at the end, there are also several corpses of Imperial beasts lying on the ground. All members of the Blood Moon Organization looked at such a scene with shock and horror in their eyes. What is the strength of this royal beast? This person must not be underestimated. It turned out to be two completely different attributes. It's really a terrifying skill, and it blocked all our attacks. Shouts of exclamation continued to resound from the mouths of members of the Blood Moon organization. The strength that Xiaobai displayed really frightened them a little. And not far behind Su, 967, Yun. Everyone's expressions were dull. It would have seemed to them. Although Su Yun is strong. But in the face of so many people, it is just to die in vain. And now, under Xiaobai's blow, the terrifying power that erupted made them all deeply shocked. I'm afraid that even the beast familiar who commands the 9 layers doesn't have such a terrifying attack power. Su Yun. Lu Yutong clenched her fists and opened her mouth slightly, a kind of hope from the bottom of her heart surged in her heart. What's going on with you guys? Hurry up and deal with these students, and help the adults deal with that old guy Lu Ruai. Accompanied by a big drink. A few more members wearing the costumes of the Blood Moon organization appeared here. The leader, Baila, looked at Su Yun in front of him, and then at Xiaobai in front of him, and couldn't help frowning slightly. Six-tailed fox. So, you are the one who is quite active in the city today. A look of vigilance flashed in Bai Li's eyes. They had already received a report before this. A person who controls the six-tailed white fox royal beast has killed many of their members. Definitely a tricky character. He released the spirit technique of detection, and found that there was no one else around to support him, and there was a smirk on his face. It doesn't matter if you have some skills, but there is only one person. Everyone do it, kill him for me. Yes, my lord. Immediately, several people responded to it, and they had already commanded their imperial beasts to attack again. Seeing this scene, Lu Yutong immediately said, Su Yun, we are also here to help. It doesn't matter, I'm enough alone. Su Yun waved his hand and said to Bai. 100 miles of ice. Xiaobai's eyes became snow-white, and an endless chill erupted from his whole body. The surrounding air was covered with frost visible to the naked eye, and the endless chill had already spread in the air. The land ahead. In an instant, it has been covered by ice, and it continues to extend forward. Roar. With a howling roar, the familiar beast who had just launched the offensive had already borne the brunt of the attack and was directly frozen in place. The expressions of the others also changed drastically, and they made dodge movements one after another. But even so, there are still people and beasts who have no time to dodge, and turned into ice sculptures all over the place. Silently, this cold air crossed the playground and landed on a teaching building in the distance. Under everyone's shocking eyes. I only saw the teaching building tens of meters high, but it was completely frozen in an instant, as if it had turned into an iceberg. The hard ice layer seems to be formed after decades of freezing. At the same time, humans and beasts turned into ice sculptures. The breath has dissipated in an instant, and all vitality has been directly robbed by the cold. Under one blow, more than a dozen people died. The whole field fell into an eerie silence. Only the sound of the breeze blowing can be heard. Baila stared at Limo firmly, his eyes filled with horror and shock. And everyone has not recovered yet. Su Yun has already spoken again. Little Bai, thunder hell. Xiaobai's tail swung, and endless thunder had already spread out from its body, directly following the ground, as if it had turned into a tide, as if it wanted to completely swallow everything. If the cold air just now took people's lives silently, then the current thunder is already full of aggression, showing monstrous power. Faced with all this, everyone showed horror, once again chose to dodge. But the speed of the thunder is faster than the cold air, but it has spread to the whole audience in an instant. Rumble. The entire battlefield began to vibrate crazily, and the ground began to crack visible to the naked eye. Wait until the thunder dissipates. A large number of corpses were left on the ground. Gulu. The teachers and students behind Su Yun all swallowed subconsciously. Appeared from Su Yun. Just let Xiaobai make 2 shots. But the destructive power displayed. It has deeply shocked everyone. Is this the strength of a student? Even the number 1 scholar in 100 cities cannot be so exaggerated. I'm afraid that even those tier 4 powerhouses who are famous in one side may not be so strong. And Su Yun stood on the ground with an extremely calm expression. Facing the siege of many people. Maybe he used to be afraid of it a little bit. But now it can be said that there is no scruples. After Xiaobai evolved, a large number of large-scale skills appeared, and the most feared thing was group battles. And his own safety is also guarded by shadow beasts with full control. Him now, whether attacking or defending, already had the embryonic form of a strong man. Unless there are 5th-level powerhouses here, no matter how many people come, as long as the physical strength of Su Yun, Xiaobai and other beasts is not exhausted, there will be no fear at all. Far ahead, originally dozens of members of the Blood Moon organization, the number has been halved. But they were able to survive Su Yun's attack. It is enough to prove their strength. Even the weakest, they have all entered the 3rd-tier threshold, and have at least one commanding level royal beast. But these people, facing Su Yun who stood in front of them, there was a flash of fear in his eyes, and some people even quietly hid behind their companions, and no one dared to take the initiative to attack. Why, aren't you going to attack? Su Yun looked at the vigilant crowd, with a playful expression on the corner of his mouth, and said, "If that's the case, then I'm going to attack." Su Yun's voice fell. Xiaobai, who has accepted Su Yun's voice transmission order, has turned into a white light and rushed towards the crowd. "Stop it, Coyote." The person standing at the front looked shocked and directed his own beast to defend. But none of this made the slightest sense. Swish. Xiaobai's figure passed the hyena's body vertically and horizontally. Not only did his speed not slow down at all, it was even faster by 3 points. Pooh! Blood appeared. The hyena's head flew high, and countless blood-colored ice crystals floated in the air. At the same time, Xiaobai had already appeared at the time of that member of the Blood Moon organization. Click! His body was instantly torn apart, and he died on the spot. Woo! Xiaobai let out a long howl, and rushed towards the nearest person. The member of the Blood Moon organization immediately lost his soul, and while commanding to defend against the beast, he could only ask his surrounding companions for help. Everyone help! Quote. With a loud shout, Viola gave orders to everyone, and he also had a surge of spiritual power, and began to cast spiritual spells. Spiritual art. The swamp of the earth. Black stone beast, use rock blast. Vine beast, use inner vines to entangle. Some people immediately shot in time, trying to block Xiaobai's pace. All of a sudden, all kinds of skills and spiritual arts emerged one after another. Seeing this, Su Yun's expression didn't change at all. Xiaobai, the flame body. An extremely scorching breath erupted from Xiaobai's whole body, and his whole body seemed to turn into a huge fireball, as if it wanted to completely burn everything around him. Boom, boom, boom. Violent explosions appeared around Xiaobai, and each attack skill was within a few millimeters, all of which were easily dodged by Xiaobai. As for the other restricted spirit-like spells and skills, Xiaobai didn't even have any intention of avoiding them. Flames were raging all over his body, and he was completely burned before he could touch him. Boom, accompanied by a violent explosion. Terrifying flames have exploded. The member of the Blood Moon didn't even have time to howl, and he, together with his imperial beast, was completely reduced to 2 charred corpses. Immediately afterwards, Xiaobai's figure was already flickering in the crowd. Sometimes the flames are blazing on its body, and the cold air is scattered everywhere. Wherever its figure passed, all it left behind were charred or frozen corpses. Once it becomes Xiaobai's target, those members of the Blood Moon organization, even with the protection of the Beast Master, couldn't resist for a moment, and they were all instantly killed. That's not okay, kill this kid first. One person looked at Su Yun, and the summoning circle appeared in front of him, and a huge figure rushed out. Name: One-Horned Rhinoceros. Level: Command the 9 layers. Talent: Advanced Defense Talent. Attribute: Ordinary. Bloodline: High Commander. Skills: Death Rush, Unicorn Drill, Mount High. The ground trembled and the mountains shook. The one-horned rhino is getting closer and closer to Su Yun. Come out and loosen your muscles and bones, Vajra Ape King. Su Yun said lightly. Roar, accompanied by a roar that shook the sky. A huge figure has emerged in the summoning circle, and you can also see his punching movements. The air exploded in an instant. Under this punch, the one-horned rhino suddenly came to a standstill, then flew out backwards with a howl, and landed heavily in the distance, without making a sound. King Vajra Ape, Death Rush. The Vajra Ape King rushed out with big strides, and with every step, the ground shook crazily, like an ancient ferocious beast, directly charged into the crowd. All of a sudden, the Blood Moon organization, which was already defeated under Xiaobai's killing, finally completely collapsed because of the joining of King Kong Ape King. Not how long has passed. The entire arena was already covered with a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Finally, there were only a few fourth-tier beastmasters and Byla left in the field. With the deaths of many members, they finally no longer restrained themselves, displaying the powerful combat power of the beast. But even so, under the power of Xiaobai and King Kong Ape King, they were also beaten and retreated steadily, and the summoned beasts also began to appear damaged continuously. It's not that they didn't think about attacking the Beastmaster himself directly, but they were all easily intercepted by the Shadow Beast. Although the Shadow Beast he was holding in Su Yun's arms didn't seem to pose any threat, the defense built by manipulating the shadow seemed like an insurmountable mountain, making it impossible to attack. But at this moment, a cold light flashed in Bai Li's eyes, and he suddenly shouted, "Come out, Lai Yan Black Demonic Beast." The summoning circle emerged. All I saw was a flame rising into the sky. A beast with a body length of 1 foot of darkness all over its body, but faintly surrounded by flames. You are stepping out of the flames. Name: Flame Black Warcraft. Level: Lord Zhouzhong. Talent: Advanced Defensive Talent, Intermediate Fire Control Talent. Attribute: Fire. Bloodline: High Lord. Skills: Flame Roaring Cannon, City Burning Fire, 9 Rings of Fire, Flame Claw. Flame Black Demonic Beast, use the Flame Roaring Cannon. Byla spoke coldly. By now, he finally used his strongest hole card. The flaming black demonic beast opened its mouth wide, and terrifying flames erupted from his mouth, like huge cannonballs, sweeping towards Su Yun. Swish! Xiaobai's expression moved, and within a flash of his figure, he had already arrived in front of Su Yun, and a terrifying cold air spewed out of his mouth. Breath of ice. Next moment, the flames and the cold wind had already collided in midair. Boom! A violent explosion resounded through the sky. The two forces of ice and fire collided with each other. The berserk force swept away in all directions, and the surrounding ground was constantly exploding. Lu Yutong and others in the distance, all under this explosion, subconsciously backed away again and again. Great. Thank you, Lord Byla. Seeing the flame-black demonic beast pinning down Xiaobai, all the remaining members of Blood Moon were overjoyed, and summoned all their remaining royal beasts without hesitation. All of a sudden, the summoning circle emerged above the ground. One after another, the monsters with strange shapes have jumped up from it. The Violent Pig King, use the Flying Earth Spike. Wind Cicada Snake, use the Wind Blade. Shadow Bird, use Shadow Wave. With loud shouts, one after another skills have surged out. All of a sudden, all kinds of skills were intertwined to form a frenzy of terror, and the energy fluctuations emitted made Lu Yutong and others tremble with fear. But in the face of all this, Su Yun's expression was incomparably calm, as if everything in front of him was just a breeze, which could not affect him at all. Xiaobai, the source is liberated. Boom! Xiaobai took a step forward. The aura all over his body was already turbulent, and the aura of various attributes became extremely violent around him, as if to completely tear the surrounding space apart. Feeling the incomparably violent energy fluctuations, Lu Yutong and the others were all stunned in place. These energies, all of them stared wide-eyed, and even under the impact of this energy breath, their whole bodies trembled heavily. And at this moment, Xiaobai has already launched an attack. Breath of Fire. Xiaobai opened his mouth, as if a flame that could burn everything had surged out of his mouth. Rumble. Between the vertical and horizontal flames, it seemed as if they wanted to penetrate the void in front of them, and the entire sky seemed to be turned into a scarlet red, into a world of fire. The blow of Xiaobai's original liberation has reached an incomparably terrifying level. Next moment, all the skills stopped suddenly in midair. Whether it is the flame of the same origin, still enough water to put out the fire. They all seemed to have received an unimaginable impact, and were finally completely swallowed by the flames, and began to be completely burned at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even those water-type skills began to evaporate at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally disappeared completely. The horrible flames are invincible, as if to completely burn the entire sky. Xiaobai moved forward slowly. It seems to be the king who controls the flame, making everyone daunting. The King of Diamonds, use the crushing fist to solve them. Su Yun transmitted the sound secretly. Roar! The Vajra Ape King roared, a ferocious look flashed in his eyes. He directly kicked a royal beast away, one fist was already clenched slightly, and between the bends of his arms, he punched in the air, towards a 4 high-level powerhouses bombarded out. Boom! The air exploded completely. Under the terrified eyes of that fourth-order powerhouse, everything in front of him seemed to have been shattered, and a force that could destroy everything had enveloped him. Spiritual spell. Wooden shield. He raised his hands, and a large amount of spiritual power surged, turning into a shield, completely covering his entire figure. But all this was done in vain. The terrifying shattering force fell on the shield, without any pause at all. It completely crushed the shield like a shattering one. Boom! The power of crushing exploded completely. The body of the fourth-order powerhouse was instantly smashed to pieces, and even the ground beneath him was torn apart, showing pieces of irregular fragments. Shadow Beast, Triple Shadow Blade. Su Yun patted the Shadow Beast in his arms. Laugh. Xiaobai let out a cry, and a gigantic shadow blade pierced through the air in an instant. Pooh! Blood spattered. A royal beast has been split into two and completely lost its vitality. This monster, the Beast Master, who hid in another place at the cost of his own beast life, was dripping with cold sweat all over his body. But he hadn't had time to breathe a sigh of relief. I just feel that I have been shrouded in a shadow. Next moment, he has been directly grasped by a pair of powerful hands. Quote. Struggling desperately, he turned his head subconsciously, only to see the fierce eyes of the Vajra Ape King. Row, row. He opened his mouth to say something, but he felt the power of the King Kong Ape King's palm suddenly increase, and the bones all over his body were instantly shattered, directly piercing his internal organs, completely taking his life away. Just for a moment, 2 Tier 4 powerhouses. They all died in the hands of Su Yun's Beast Master. Baila cursed angrily, a fierce look flashed in his eyes, and while retreating quickly, he immediately gave an order to the flaming black monster through voice transmission. Blazing black demonic beast, use the 9 fire rings. Boom! The flame black monster's footsteps hit the ground, and the terrifying heat rippled. Silently, 9 crimson rings have emerged above the ground, as if they were flame caves, exuding astonishing heat. Die, brat! A look of ferocity flashed in Bai Li's eyes. Under normal circumstances, he is not prepared to use this trick. It has already affected a very wide area, and it is very likely to hurt one's own people. But now there is no such scruple. There are not many men left. Even if it kills the good person, it is also worthwhile to let other subordinates die for him. This is. Su Yun's expression also changed. He can feel the importance of this skill, and the level has definitely reached an extremely high level. And most importantly, the ears. The Shadow Beast's defense may not be able to protect him completely. The most important is, Lu Yutong and others are also likely to be affected. Xiaobai, use frozen Baili on the ground. Xiaobai's whole body was filled with cold air, and the endless chill had already surged towards the ground. Endless cold air spreads in all directions, and just as a ray of flames emerges in the circle, before it can erupt its power, the entire earth is completely frozen, even the flames are frozen by the ice, like a crimson flower. It looks coquettish and strange. Seeing that Su Yun had used this method to dispel the 9 rings of fire, Baila couldn't help but change the expression on his face. Spiritual power surged all over his body, and he pointed it out directly. Spiritual spell, flame rage. Spirituality, with fire. Spirituality, explode. In the blink of an eye. Violent flames surged from the whole body of the Lian black demonic beast, and the heat from the whole body was also rising steadily, and the breath had already expanded to the extreme, only to see his stomach protruding high and spitting out loudly. Boom! A large number of flames swept out in a fan shape, directly covering Su Yun and Lu Yutong and others in the distance behind him. Xiaobai, the vortex of ice and fire. Xiaobai also spit out in one gulp, the spiral vortex of ice and fire. You are rushing away directly, rushing up towards the flames in front of you. Boom! The air exploded in an instant. The horrible explosion seemed to completely destroy everything around. Next moment, the fan-shaped flame has been completely defeated. What is the bloodline of this monster-like fox? Bai Li's face was full of horror, but a look of cruelty flashed in his eyes, and the spiritual power surged in his palm, and he was already preparing another spiritual technique. Xiaobai, Ice Claw. Xiaobai's figure jumped out, and rushed towards the direction of the flame-black monster. Xiaobai's claws landed on the ground, directly leaving a faint frost, like an elf walking out of the ice, exuding an astonishing chill. Spiritualism, the death of madness. A stern look flashed across Bai Li's eyes, and most of the spiritual power in his body was emptied in an instant, forming the release of this spiritual spell. Boom! The flaming black demon beast showed pain, and the flames all over its body erupted wildly. It was obviously a fire-attributed beast, but the scales on its body were constantly being scorched and torn. Roar! It let out a crazy roar, as if it had a substantial flame, and it had surged out of his mouth. Flame roar cannon. The mighty flames tore through the air, and the power of the eruption was so strong that it seemed to be the difference between a candle flame and a monstrous fire compared to before. Looking into the distance, under the roar of the flames, Xiaobai seemed to be reduced to ashes at any time. It seems that you still haven't recognized the gap in strength. A sneer appeared on Su Yun's face, and he said, Xiaobai, use the ice and fire vortex with all your strength. Xiaobai withdrew his sharp claws, a look of unruliness flashed in his eyes, he opened his mouth slightly, and the vortex of ice and fire took shape. Boom! The vortex of ice and fire erupted suddenly, and the oncoming monstrous force was completely vulnerable under this vortex of ice and fire. It collapsed completely in a sudden twist. Xiaobai, who has entered the state of original liberation, relies on the extremely high bloodline of the Overlord. Unless the king-level beasts make a move, they will never be afraid of anyone. Boom! The vortex of ice and fire crashed down, as if the entire sky was pressing down, directly covering the blazing black monster completely. Hum! The raging flames all over the body of the raging flame black demonic beast had been completely defeated, and there were loud wailing sounds. Next moment, the night black monster has been completely swallowed by the ice and fire vortex. Even centered on him, the surrounding earth has shown a huge spiral, and the solid earth has completely disappeared in an instant. Xiaobai, who had done all this, didn't even take a look here, his whole body flickered, and he was already rushing towards Bai Li's direction. Bai Li was horrified, and congratulated the last trace of spiritual power, which turned into a shield, blocking him. Click! Xiaobai landed on the shield with one claw, easily tore it to pieces, and grabbed Bai Li without stopping. Bai Li looked at the ice claw that was getting closer and closer, as if he could feel the chill that froze everything, his eyes were full of despair and abject disbelief. He couldn't believe it. It's just a Tier 3 Beastmaster, why is the Beastmaster cultivated so strong? It took only a split second to fight against each other, and even though he had played all his cards, he was still not an opponent at all. Really? You will die here. There was a wry smile in Bai Li's eyes, and he felt a chill flow through his body in an instant, and he completely lost consciousness. Lord Bai Li is dead. The eyes of the few people who were commanding the beast to resist the attack of the King Kong Ape King were already full of fear. They glanced at each other. Without any hesitation. Even directly abandoning the beast that was badly injured behind him, he had already cast spiritual spells and fled towards the place. Why do everyone think they can escape in my hands? Su Yun shook his head lightly, a cold look flashed in his eyes. Xiaobai understood Su Yun's intention in an instant, and he didn't even need to wait for the order to be given. He rushed towards several people while he was running. Spiritual art, surrounded by spiritual power. A Blood Moon member who ran at the back directly cast a bound spirit spell. One after another of strange spiritual runes, the first Xiaobai appeared up and down all over his body, trying to seal it in place. Body of fire. A look of disdain appeared on Xiaobai's face, and the flames all over his body erupted wildly, burning up these runes with ease, and his entire figure had already passed by the person who made the shot. Xiaobai didn't make a move at all. Flames all over the body. It has completely burned the person's body. At last, Xiaobai, carrying raging fire, had already rammed towards the last few people. Boom! The flames exploded. Terrifying flames rolled in all directions. All the figures have been completely swallowed by the flames. They let out a mournful howl. It was completely dead. At the same time, the few royal beasts that had already been severely injured in the distance, because of the death of their master, also died instantly, directly on the spot. Phew! The Vajra Ape King yelled in displeasure. It hadn't encountered so many durable sandbags for a long time, and it didn't expect to die like this, which made him quite depressed. It's only been a few days since the college entrance examination, but he has become so much stronger, or has he been hiding his strength? The teacher looked at Su Yun's back, and his words kept trembling. Who can imagine? A student beheaded the Tier 4 powerhouse. It turned out to be so easy. You didn't get hurt, did you? Su Yun came to the side of the teacher and others, and asked in a low voice. No. It's nothing, thanks to your timely arrival. The teacher was still immersed in the shock of Su Yun's strength. After hearing Su Yun's words, he came back to his senses, and his face was full of gratitude. Su Yun nodded, put his eyes on Lu Yutong's body, and said, Did you see Gao Feng at this gathering? Where is he? Lu Yutong quickly said, Because of the Blood Moon Organization's attack, I was separated from him, but I saw him near the principal, and I thought he was with the principal. I'm afraid he is very dangerous now, because most people in the Blood Moon Organization regard Principal Lu Ruai as a target. Hearing this, Su Yun's expression changed, and he looked towards the place where the energy fluctuations were the strongest in the distance. He rode directly on Xiaobai, and disappeared into the night with his two zongs. Su Yun, be careful. Watching the back of Su Yun leaving, Lu Yutong could only pray secretly in her heart. The situation today, even if she wants to fight alongside Su Yun, she doesn't have such strength either. It will even become a drag on Su Yun. This moment, before the teacher teaching building, this place has turned into a bloody battlefield. And at the very center of the battlefield, two figures were directing the beasts to engage in a fierce battle there. All of them exude strong spiritual power fluctuations, and they are powerful people who have reached the 5th level. Throughout Jinfeng City, a strong man with a king-level beast master is the existence at the top of the pyramid. One of them was unexpectedly the principal of 9th High School, Lu Ruai. In front of him, there is a fierce tiger with wings on its back, roaring continuously there. Name, Hurricane Roaring Tiger. Level, Sovereign Double. Talent, Advanced Speed Talent, Intermediate Wind Control Talent. Attribute, Wind. Bloodline, Inferior Monarch. Skills, Roar of the Tiger King, Blast Storm, Wind Blade, Storm, Wind Claw. And not far across from him, on the other hand, stood an indifferent man wearing a Blood Moon robe, commanding a huge Scarlet Imperial Beast. Name, Scarlet Flame Sky Beast. Grade, Sovereign Level 1. Talent, Intermediate Speed Talent, Intermediate Fire Control Talent, and Low Recovery Talent. Attribute, Fire. Bloodline, Inferior Monarch. Skills, Flying Fire Wheel, Flame Explosion, Flame Claw, Red Flame Roar, Fire Wave. The two Imperial beasts fought continuously. The battle situation is in a state of anxiety. Within a short time, there is no possibility of winning or losing at all. Haha, I haven't seen you for so many years, Lu Ruai, your skills really haven't deteriorated in the slightest. The Red Moon Man laughed loudly, the laughter can be said to be very peaceful. If it is to ignore the battle of life and death ahead, anyone would think that the two are just urging each other. Sha Donglai, you have disappeared for more than 10 years, and you have become a running dog of the Blood Moon Organization. You really are living and returning. Lu Ruai replied coldly with frosty face. Ha ha ha, you who are only limited to a Sea Blue Alliance, how can you know the greatness of Blood Moon? Sha Donglai laughed wildly, his eyes full of fanaticism. Forget it, I don't want you to understand, anyway, you will die here today. It's up to you, Lu Ruai sneered. Sha Donglai said. If it's just you, I probably won't be able to keep you, but with so many burdens on you, it will eventually become your weakness. Hearing Sha Donglai's words, Lu Ruai's face became more and more gloomy. Because it was just like what Sha Donglai said. All members of the Blood Moon Organization are used to fighting to the death. Even if you follow your teacher, you have a considerable degree of combat effectiveness. But those students, after all, it's too immature. Although under the teacher's organization, their combat effectiveness has been brought to the sky. But a fight of this intensity, they definitely won't last long. How come the members of the patrol team are still here? Commanding Hurricane Roaring Tiger to deal with Sha Donglai's offensive, Lu Ruai kept sensing the surrounding battlefield, and his expression became more and more anxious. Because of the living space for teachers and students, it has been continuously compressed by the members of the Blood Moon Organization, showing a trend of retreating steadily. These crazy people, on the battlefield in the distance, Zhou Daifeng was commanding the unicorn horse, continuously releasing the light of healing, recovering the injuries of some students and beast masters. But over time, whether it was the unicorn or Zhou Daifeng, they all showed signs of exhaustion. Teacher Zhou, what should we do now? I'm afraid we won't last long. Gao Feng's clothes were also covered with blood, some from the enemy and some from himself. He asked Zhou Daifeng next to him. Zhou Daifeng shook his head and said, if we can't hold on, we have to hold on. We have to wait until the patrol team arrives. Otherwise, if we run away, once these people attack, they will die faster. 1. Gao Feng nodded subconsciously, but the depths of his eyes were full of worry. Although I don't know the situation outside, but he can hear it too. The sound of explosions continued to be heard all around the city. Under such circumstances, the patrol may not be able to spare manpower to support here. But at this moment, a line of defense formed by a teacher has been torn open, and a fourth-rank beastmaster with several subordinates has already driven straight in. Once let it really succeed, not only will the internal students suffer heavy casualties, I am afraid it will also be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Hateful. Zhou Daifeng's eyes were wide open, but he was powerless at all. But at this moment, in the distant night, there was a cry. It was the cry of a fox. The sound was clear and clear, but it echoed between the heaven and the earth for a long time. I only saw a six-tailed white fox, which was already rushing towards this direction at a lightning speed. Under the night, the snow-white fox exudes a different kind of beauty, as if it is the only one in this darkness. Subconsciously, everyone has already looked in the direction of the snow-white fox. All I saw was a young beggar with a handsome face and a resolute expression on the body of the fox. Could it be that the patrol's support has arrived? No, just him. Seeing Su Yun's arrival, all members of the Blood Moon organization were surprised. But after they released their perceptions and confirmed that there was no one else except Su Yun, strange expressions appeared on their faces. Hey, it seems that he is a guy who wants to be a hero. It's just a third-rank beastmaster, and he came here to seek his own death. Don't worry about it for now, let's tear up the defense line of these guys first. A flash of disdain flashed in some people's eyes, so they stopped paying too much attention. Just a third-tier beastmaster, I am afraid that he will be killed by others before he can rush in front of them. But at this moment, a word suddenly sounded, Xiaobai, breath of fire. Between Setsuna, they only felt an extremely scorching, 5-2-3, breath raging in the field, as if the entire battlefield had turned into a sea of flames. Xiaobai opened his mouth, and a terrifying flame had already bloomed from his mouth, sweeping out directly. Boom, accompanied by a violent roar. The flames exploded. The members of the Blood Moon organization on the periphery had exploded in an instant, and were completely burned in the sea of flames. Looking at such a scene, all the people were shocked by it. And this is just the beginning. Su Yun jumped off Xiaobai's body, looked at the few people who were about to tear apart the teacher's defense line, patted Xiaobai and said, Xiaobai, the lightning speed. Crackling, between the flashes of thunder. Everyone just felt a blur in front of them. Xiaobai, who was still in the distance, had already disappeared, and when he appeared again, he had gone deep into the battlefield, and appeared next to the leading fourth-tier beastmaster, his paws gleaming with cold air. Ice Claw. When the cold light suddenly appeared, a head flew high. This is just the beginning. Xiaobai's figure flickered, as if a thunderbolt swept across all directions, and he had already shot several times in succession. Wait until all the dust settles. Several heads had fallen to the ground. The faces of these people were all blank, as if they didn't know what happened at all, and they died completely on the spot. In the blink of an eye. Kill several people in a row. Such a scene. Everyone was shocked, especially Zhou Daifeng and others. Their faces were full of sluggishness. They have a certain understanding of Su Yun's strength. But it has the power to defeat the fourth-order beastmaster. It's not that exaggerated. Just for a moment, several beast masters, including the fourth-rank powerhouse, have already been decapitated. Sha Donglai's pupils also shrank deeply. Compared with Su Yun's strength, what he cares more about is Su Yun's cultivation. It's just a third-level beast master who actually possesses a fourth-level beast master. If it's not because of his extraordinary talent, it is because he has special skills or spiritual skills that can make the level of the Beast Master surpass his own. With such combat power, he is not allowed to play at will. A cold light flashed in Sha Donglai's eyes, and he wanted to attack Su Yun. Haha, what do you want to do to the students in our school? Lu Ruai laughed loudly, and said via voice transmission. Hurricane Roaring Tiger, use Raid Storm. Hurricane Roaring Dance let out a roar, and the terrifying gust of wind raged across the audience in an instant. The persecuted True East comes to a comprehensive defense. The guy who got in the way. Sha Donglai frowned and suddenly shouted. I have someone to obey, and take the lead in solving this Beast Master who came to support, at all costs. Hear Sha Donglai's order. Some members of the Blood Moon organization immediately left the battlefield, commanded the Beast Familiar, and launched an attack on Su Yun. Crazy Eagle King, Bass Wave. Big Rock Rat, Earth Thorn. Electric Elk, Electric Air Strike. With a loud shout, all kinds of skills already smashed in sus direction like a violent storm. Just sent these miscellaneous fish to deal with me. Looking at all this, Su Yun's eyes flashed an unruly look, and he waved his hand lightly. A summoning circle appeared in front of him. King Kong Yuanwang's huge figure had appeared in front of him. Roar! The Vajra Ape King uttered an earth-shattering roar, sweeping the audience as if it was thunder. Spiritual art. Magnification. Explosion of strange power. Hardening. Boom. The body of the Vajra Ape King suddenly became larger, and the muscles all over his body were raised high, exuding bursts of metallic luster, as if he was a peerless fierce god. Just stand there. The surrounding earth has already exploded for it. Bang, bang, bang. A series of skills landed on King Kong Ape King's body, causing a violent explosion. But the body of the Vajra Ape King is like a real copper wall and iron wall. These skills can't even make him take a step back, not to mention hurting him. All of a sudden, the power directly swept the audience. Oh my god, is Su Yun's Vajra Ape King already this strong? All the people from the number 9 middle school were already shocked, and some even looked at Su Yun with a hint of fanaticism in their eyes. The strong have been revered since ancient times. This is human instinct. As for the members of the Blood Moon organization who had just shot, their complexions changed instantly. My goodness, what kind of monster is this? Such a defense, what a joke. The sound of exclamation continued to sound, echoing in the air for a long time. Su Yun said, King Vajra Ape, Death Rush. The Vajra Ape King immediately charged. Boom, boom, boom. The entire battlefield began to tremble crazily, and wherever the King Kong King passed, the ground collapsed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The members of the Blood Moon organization, who were the first to bear the brunt, all felt their scalps tingling. Stop it, Boar, Coyote, use Rolling Rock Burst. Give it to me, Giant Rock Snake. Spirituality, Land Binding. No one hesitated at all, and all responded immediately. All of a sudden, one after another, the royal beasts rushed towards King Kong King, and all kinds of skills and spiritual spells fell down, trying to block the progress of the King Kong. But the next moment, they all despaired of it. Facing the imperial beasts that rushed up, the Vajra Ape King didn't dodge at all, just slammed into them abruptly, breaking the tendons hit by the imperial beasts. All kinds of skills and spiritual spells can't cause the slightest trouble to it, and can't even slow down its speed by a single point. Rumble. The Vajra Ape King rampaged like a steamroller, invincible wherever he passed, leaving a trace like a sea of blood. The few beast masters who escaped by chance were all trembling with horror on their faces. Roar. The Vajra Ape King beat his chest with both fists, stood on the bloody earth and roared to the sky. His terrifying aura shocked the audience. This moment, everyone in 9th High School was overwhelmed. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.